and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cavness. Our guest today is Eddie. I'm gonna let it say his own last name. I'm sure I'll butcher it.
Eddie Mazariegos.
Eddie, you ready to be great today?
Every day. Let's do it.
Eddie is the founder of Future Gen, a Gen Z career exploration platform for high schoolers. He's found a love for the question, what do you want to do in the future? Has built multiple mentorship, career exploration, and company culture programs in university and company settings across the years. Some other fun facts about Eddie is that he's an Eagle Scout. His favorite superhero is Spiderman, and no one can cook better enchiladas than his mother. Eddie, so I'm gonna start with a softball question.
Let's do it.
Everyone says they're a dog lover. However, you're really a dog lover, right? I'm mistaken, but you actually have a LinkedIn profile picture of you and your dog, right?
This is true. I cannot tell a lie.
And the little snack, little like backpack your dog in it, whatever.
Yeah, he's like partner in crime. I carry with him wherever I can go, essentially.
So talk to about how you like just tell us about your dog.
So that cute little guy that you may see on my picture every now and then, his name is Theo, and he just turned 3 years old. And gosh, there's so much cool stuff. Like I have so many experiences with him from the moment I actually had the opportunity to adopt him. Believe it or not, I drove 1,000 miles to get him, and it wasn't that itself was quite something. But we've gone on camping trips together. I trained him to go on my back. We'll go biking every now and then. And quite recently, actually, we relocated to Redmond, Washington, because of this legendary park called Merrimore Park. They have an off the leash dog park there, and I swear to you not, it has like 100 acres, just all completely available for dogs. They have a river going through it, so dogs can even go jumping in there, and it's his backyard now.
So what kind of dog is it again?
He's a corgi, a little tri-colored corgi.
Corgi.
Yeah.
And why are corgi versus like all the numerous hundreds of thousands of other breeds out there?
I think my sister has some inspiration for that. I basically went up to my sister and like, you know what? Work from home kind of just got in place. Like, I feel like this is my time to have a buddy of mine. And I was like, what do you think about a corgi? And he's like, that's a great idea. Let's jump on this. And she literally just started talking to house, to home, to breeder, to every single place that you can find where you can maybe find a corgi. And it just kind of happened. It just felt like a calling.
And so the corgi, I guess, it stays at home when you're out doing your stuff. Or are you so much a dog lover? You have like a dog sitter come in and walking your dog every day, or like how far do you go?
I would say right now my girlfriend is the dog sitter right now. So I do love taking him with me wherever I can go. So yes, I've taken him on flights with me. Yes, I have taken him in with me, and he's like a great road warrior with me when I go on some long trips. But at home, he's my girlfriend right now.
You plan on getting any more dogs in the future? Like as like a partner for your dog? What's your dog's name again?
His name is Theo.
Theo's right.
He kind of has a partner right now. He has her name is Willa, and it's actually my girlfriend's dog.
Okay.
So it's interesting because
made for double dating.
Kinda. I mean, they're excellent playmates. But cool. Yeah, no, it's funny. Theo, he did such a great job being him that when I introduced him to my girlfriend's family, he convinced my girlfriend's family to get their first dog, my girlfriend to get her very first dog. And now all her aunts and uncles and relatives and cousins are beginning to slowly get cats and dogs. And so it's just the love spreads, I guess.
Yeah. So you have a girlfriend. She's a dog lover. Would you ever consider being with someone who's a cat lover? Well, that's a red flag. Like, you like cats, yeah, I can't deal with you.
It's like kind of that common question where like, does pineapple belong in the pizza? Mm-hmm. I see food as food. Mm-hmm. If it's like a great comparing, then I have yet to ever date a girl that is a cat lover itself, but it's that's
never say never.
Yeah, never say never.
So next, talking about food. So I'm pretty sure billions of people disagree with your statement. Your mother's enchiladas are the best, right? My mother's the best, right? So why is your mother's enchiladas the best? Like, what is that the secret sauce she does? The tender love of care? Like, what makes her enchiladas the best?
Well, every mother.
And too bad you don't have a sample for us right now, huh?
Yeah, I know. I feel bad after you giving some samples on your table here. But yeah, my mother, like I would imagine most of us, does provide like that special love that's in there. But the reason why I know it's the best is because every single time we have guests coming into the house and they taste just a nibble of her
So it's
enchiladas.
just not you, it's everyone saying
Yeah,
it. Okay.
it's literally like when I say Monterey Bay, California has the best clam chowder, like in the local area, everybody knows my mom has the best enchiladas.
Have you picked up any cooking tips from your mother? How do you enchiladas prepare?
My enchiladas, I kind of unfortunately don't put as much delicate care. I kind of just do like an assembly line type of thing. She spends hours on it. I'm just like, okay, how can I get this food in me, kind of thing. So
Yeah, they had a thing on Instagram the other day I watched. It was like this guy video says simple steps like make a nice meal, and like somebody posted 10,000 steps later, the meal's still not done.
yeah, I gotta say, I definitely, my mother did give me a little like thermometer
Mhm.
so you can like stab it in there. So I'm not quite cutting as many chicken legs
Uh-huh.
and steaks in half, seeing redness. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
now I can still keep it all in piece.
yeah. Um, Next, talk about you're an Eagle Scout, correct?
I am.
Are you still pretty involved with Boy Scouts? Or first question, how does one become an Eagle Scout, right? It's like like is that like the black belt of Boy Scouts, right? Is the ultimate goal to get the Eagle Scout goals or something above Eagle Scout?
I would say Eagle Scout is, it's once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. It's something that if you're a part of the Boy Scouts, it's something that it's, did you, a common question as a follow-up is like, did you get your Eagle? And it's not because like there's, Boy Scouts doesn't have value throughout the entirety of the journey, but it's so important to begin and finish what you start. And so with Eagle Scouts, there, if you'll be surprised how many of us are sprinkled out wherever you go. And so personally, it is a very, very well recognized award, not just here amongst Eagle Scouts, but a lot of people get awards through Congress and a lot of scholarships, etc. It's honestly one of the best experiences I've had in my life.
And what are some things you have to do to become an Eagle Scout? I'm sure it's like a strenuous process, right?
Yeah, I mean, there, yes, there's the typical Boy Scout stuff where, yeah, you have to go ahead and learn how to tie knots and learn how to go ahead and fire and stuff like that. But in the process of becoming an Eagle Scout, you actually learn so much more than that. So anywhere from, so I chose an emphasis in like first aid, EMT, first responder type stuff because I had an interest in becoming a doctor when I was younger, specifically emergency trauma surgeon. And I would say there's always an Eagle Scout project that has to be done, and it can be anything. Some people build benches, gardens. I reopened the wildlife corridor, and it's yeah. So there's some basic stuff you gotta. Yes, there's some core hard skills you gotta learn to be prepared, and then there is some leadership that you have to teach to the next generation of scouts, and then you kind of leave your legacy behind when you do your official Eagle Scout check.
And you get called on what's called like mentor current Boy Scouts who are trying to become Eagle Scouts.
Yeah, my troop 275 Prunedale, California. I've actually been given a couple of mentor pins from the Eagle Scouts that have gone through the program there. It's I didn't ask for it. It's just we say it have this oath. Scout is trust or is on my honor. I would do my best to do my duty to God and my country to help other people at all times, keep myself physically strong and mentally awake. And so that help other people at all times, it's so embedded across, I wouldn't just say Eagle Scouts, but just Boy Scouts as a whole. And so just outside even Boy Scouts, I would say that's something I practice quite, it's quite principal to me.
And you might not know this, but what percentage of Boy Scouts become Eagle Scouts? I have to imagine that percentage, I guess, be kind of low, right?
So there's some like new statistics that are out there, but it's kind of funny. I actually have this book right here that has it on the title, the 4%. So it can range depending on how you want to play with the stats, as 4% make it to Eagle Scout, but not as in recent times you can get as, I think, as high as 8.
So the Girl Scouts sell cookies. I've never seen the Boy Scouts sell anything. Do y'all sell something too, or the Girl Scouts just monopolize all the money from people?
So we're well known for selling popcorn, but I would say
I
it's
had no clue, be honest with you. I had no clue.
honestly, if I had a choice to sell Girl Scout cookies as a Boy Scout, sign me up. But through a lot of fundraising efforts, especially in my troop, we used to do things like sell firewood. We used to do like mistletoe fund drives. We also used to do like spaghetti fundraisers and stuff like that.
Is there any difference between Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts? Y'all both groups basically like learn the same things, do the same things, sort of, kind of.
It's unfortunate that there is actually a bit of a difference. Both of them, I tell you, they're both great programs. But I would say there's probably a different experience that's given across from a Girl Scouts versus a Boy Scouts. And it's a big reason why I'm so supportive of the Boy Scouts initiative when they're actually encouraging entire Girl Scout troops now going through the Eagle Scout curriculum. So I think like maybe a good example is that a lot of the Boy Scout type of curriculum that is provided in standard is maybe a little bit has different flexibility in terms of hands-on activities versus the Girl Scouts.
So the Girl Scouts don't have their own version of Eagle Scout?
So they have something called the Gold Star.
Okay.
But you don't really hear about the Gold Star, which is again is unfortunate. Doesn't have the same amount of weight, I would say, unfortunately.
So is there like some kind of like, suppose you move to, we'll say, Denver, Colorado. Is there some like online form you can go, push buttons, and all the Eagle Scouts in Denver will pop up for you to connect with them? Is that kind of alumni network like that for you?
So there's something called the National Eagle Scout Association, NESA. And so NESA is an organization that, if you're an Eagle Scout, you can actually sign up for there. And you can actually say like, hey, you can reach out to me for mentorship opportunities. You can reach out for me for just connect over, like, say, LinkedIn or something like that. But this is actually like very accurate information. Like I literally have a Yellow Pages version of Eagle Scouts, and it has their contact information from email to their home numbers, which is kind of scary, but also a very powerful tool.
Yeah. Is it possible you kicked out the Eagle Scouts or Boy Scouts? Someone could do something so bad that you automatically get kicked out?
I'm sure there is. I mean, like any organization, there's a code of conduct. There is, certain standards that we should always have across any organization universally. I personally have never experienced that. Usually whenever a Boy Scout left the organization at my troop, it was due to maybe we're not the best cultural fit, like our teams were different. We had different interests and activities. But unfortunately, or for good reasons, we fortunately didn't have any for like misconduct of any kind.
Now, a few years ago, I don't remember how long there was a lot of bad prep of the Boy Scout, like the certain Boy Scout mass, like taking advantage of young boys. How do you how do you balance that with the values of Boy Scouts gave you? Like, how can this organization be so great and then let this happen, right? How do you balance that in your mind?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of that stuff you're talking about still impacts Boy Scouts today. So
because they had to pay like a big fine, and like then they get still like multi-million dollars that I pay like a big fine or something.
Entire campsites that have ecosystems surrounding around them had to shut down. My personal local favorite in Monterey County, Pico Blanco, actually had to sell itself to another organization so it can, still give the great experiences that youth program and campsite can give. But yeah, there was a lot of consequence to actions. So personally, how I kind of put it in my head is that its core principle, its core mission, its core impact that it has across young leaders, it's still there. And this, I would say, reflection was a good North Star compass to then like, hey, we stepped away from that. How do we correct ourselves to ensure that we're still following our true North Star? So I still think that they do that fairly well. So
both of us favorite superhero is Spiderman. And so tell me some reasons why Spiderman is your guy.
My gosh. He's so relatable.
Isn't he? Yeah, like he has all these problems, he loses a girl, gets picked on, like he never give enough. Everything he tries, even if he does something good, it turns to shit on him, yeah, so relatable.
Yeah, I mean, like every superhero, this seems perfect, untouchable. Like they are
Thor.
Yeah. Yeah.
the god of thunder and love.
Yeah, like they're just so perfect. But in the reality, it's just like, Spider-Man just puts that realistic lens in there and like, hey, he is a hero that experiences loss. he's he's a hero that, yeah, he can win, but a lot of those are actually from triumphs over large failures. And so, Spider-Man's been told no, I don't know how many times. Like, no, you can't get the girl. No, you can't save, save the city or save your relative. And you know what he did? He said, you know what? I'm gonna do my best anyways. And so he's a character. I think he does his best in every way he can. And he himself grows his own personal compass along that time. And I love that.
Yeah, he's definitely like a good superhero for entrepreneurs to follow, I think, right? The resiliency, getting kicked down 10 times, getting up 11 times, never giving up. And of course, it helps that he's a super genius too, right?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't go wrong when you have a good heart and mind on your shoulders.
Yes, yes. So next, let's talk about your time you as a thing is called management consultant at a company. Can you talk about that experience? First, what is a consultant? Define that for everyone. What does a consultant do or not do?
Consultant is kind of like a very broad term. We just come in when there's a fire and we say like, hey, this is a solution, and good luck with that. So there's kind of two different types of consultants, in my opinion. There are ones I would say are more like strategic, thinking about more at a high level problem solving. And these are people that typically build, again, like company strategies and stuff like that. But then there's a second type of consultant that is, I would say, like they're very technically skilled and have a very strong talent in something specific. And so I fell into the category of the prior, which is trying to think about the current state of things and what are the next best steps to get to the future state.
And so how does one become a consultant? Because I'm guessing like you're pretty young, right? Did you ever get feedback like, you're a consultant, you're not 55 years old with 30 years experience? How do you like make people think, no, I'm actually a consultant, I know what I'm doing?
I actually didn't know what a consultant was until I left college. I'm the kind of person I'm like, hey, I'm going to become this person. My personal drives and ambition are different from, like, let's say a title or a status. So I honestly just wandered into management consulting. I was doing, prior to that, I was doing some really large cost saving projects for a Hyundai Mobis. And
that's you're a consultant for Hyundai?
I was a consultant for a company called Trivista.
Trivista, okay.
Trivista is a merger and acquisitions with an emphasis towards supply chain strategies. And so I was a part of their rapid operational assessment team, basically identifying red, yellow, green flag opportunities for private equity clients.
And your bio, the part I didn't read, you said you used to like spend a different hotel once a week or something? Like you did how to do a lot of travel?
Oh yeah, it was I think I did that for just about 2 years. I did close to like 25 separate projects for mergers and acquisitions, and kind of saw the country one hotel.
What was the favorite city you were able to go to?
Seattle.
Seattle?
Actually, no, I'm lying there. Seattle is by far the favorite city I've ever been to. Across my time when I was working at the company, but I actually came here for vacation. But in terms of city that I have been to, I think I had a really good time in Chicago. That was fun.
Nice. And how about your least favorite? Sound like I would never go here again.
I had to remember the names of those like, towns in the boonies.
So all these cities you went to, like big cities, like somewhere like Podunk, small cities, all them pretty big.
It was a mix.
Okay.
You can like literally be going to New York one day, or you can literally just be going to a really random town in Kansas.
And you say the same hotel each time, or they get different hotels?
So I had a preference towards Marriott.
Marriott's okay.
But if you had to accompany someone else more senior on the team, they would maybe have a preference to one chain or another.
Nice. And how long did you do that for?
Just under 2 years. Yeah, it was. It was interesting. It felt a lot longer than 2 years.
I'm sure it did. Because it was like they work like they'll work like 80-hour weeks, long hours, like it pays good, but the hours suck or something like that, overserved.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely spent in quite a bit of time there. There's times where sometimes I was assigned to 4 separate assignments at a time, and it's like, well, you got to be on site for this project. You got to provide remote support for this one. Yeah. You got to be leading for the project in India, and so you're just working these wacko hours. Yeah. So again, learned a lot, but it was. Could I see myself doing that for like a lifetime
You're like,
career.
no.
No.
Like, yeah, like I want to have a life.
Yeah, I mean, it's success means different to different people. And success there was something that I was thinking long term wise. No,
Yeah.
best fit.
So my pitch, this is my take on eight circle songs, right? So I tell people, eight circle songs, like, pose up with a song, I work for you, right?
Yeah.
I come to you and like, hey, Eddie, I looked your HR stuff over. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yeah.
And imagine like HR songs charge any for $100, $500 an hour. So we say I'm charging you $300 an hour. So I say, Eddie, you need these HR things, right? You're gonna say, hey, Jason, I know that's where to hire you. What you can do for me? You're like, oh no, I consult you. Like, I'm not doing it for you. Like, so you were like, so I'm paying you $300 an hour to tell me what I already know. And that's where Kevin starts over trying to get rid of, trying to take care of that kind of stuff. So after consulting, that's when you switch to your current company, right? Your startup.
Yeah, is at one point in time, kind of just what I used to do after consulting at locations is on my off time, I would actually go to colleges and school educational sites, and I used to ask a lot of their students there, what do you want to do in the future? And it was funny thinking or realizing the different responses you get. I used to freak a lot of them out. Yeah, it's a big question, easy to ask, hard to answer. But during that time, that's how I kind of found 3 unique profiles, or I would say identities I found across these youth. But yeah, so I did that for about 2 years, and then at one point I'm like, hey, what happens with my 100% effort, imagining what career exploration could be.
So why Gen Z versus why only Gen Z? Why not combine different generations together? Because different generations are in school, that kind of stuff. Why specifically Gen Z?
Well, I think you're gonna have to pick your battles, especially when you're building a startup, in the sense of focus does a lot of good, especially in the beginning stages, picking your niche. And so something that I found was a potential challenge on my end was, believe it or not, I'm 27, and I just turned 27. And so a lot of people look at me and say, like, what kind of experience could you possibly have? You barely started. And then I'm like, you know what? No. How can I put my position where I'm in into a superpower? And so that's why Gen Z seemed like an amazing fit, in the sense like, hey, I can really relate to the problem because I recently went through the whole process of, post-secondary, and for myself for many years, asking, what do I want to do in the future? And realize that there's a lot of context that's lost between how people are trying to recommend the next generation how to do the next best steps versus how do they see the world and how they see themselves applied in it.
What's the generation that comes after Gen Z?
Millennials.
I mean the other way.
Oh, other way?
Yeah.
I guess it's, I'm trying to remember like the actual technical term.
Is the plan to take your lesson learned from Gen Z and transfer it all to that following generation?
Well, it's actually to go ahead and go all the way across vertically. And what I mean by that is, what do you want to do in the future is a fun question when you're asked when you're a little kid, when you're first grade, kindergarten, and you're giving answers like,
everyone wants to be a superhero,
yeah,
fire truck worker or policeman, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, who doesn't want to be a princess veterinarian for the zoo, And so you have basically all these kids that have such like amazing imagination, and like the world's their oyster, but it kind of has different weight, that same question that's asked to them as they get older, from high school to going to entering the workforce, pivoting careers. And so realistically, I actually envision us making that entire process eased across all those different chapters in one's life. But right now, again, focus on one at a time. So our focus right now is specifically Gen Z.
And how many people are on your team right now? And how did you convince these people to come work for your startup for basically free, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it all started with one. So I was the original crazy founder, the one who, decided to no longer, do full-time work for a corporation or for another company, but, decided to put their 100% effort into this problem area. And it was crazy. This happened. I resigned October 1st, 2021. And by the end of that month, we actually already had an initial team of 5. And that itself is a crazy story. It was pretty wild. I remember like one was just me, and the next day there was 5 of us going into a cabin in the woods in California for Big Bear Mountain. That another one of our potential senior advisors said like, hey, you know what? Some benefits of being an Eagle Scout, it pays dividends. And so, but today, yeah, there's 8 of us, and very, very proud and happy with the team that we have. We have engineers, designers, other people that are very involved in like PhD educated applied research for, youth development and professional practices.
So you said the statement, you written the statement on social media a few times in the last week, building in public. What does that mean to you, building in public?
It's being fearless. Building in public is, I literally think, is being fearless in who you are, what your why is, and just going for it. So it's something that I would say it's after going along this journey for a year and a half now. I'm not one to be shy of what I do, but to really go ahead and express that, I think it's something that I think is very important. So to me, it's being fearless, who you are and what you do. What's your mission?
So is your plan like I'm guessing you're bootstrapping right now, right?
Yeah.
Do you plan like bootstrapping like forever? You ever want to do a fundraise? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, like we are in the middle of our pre-seed round. We're getting ready to do our first pilot programs in a couple of school districts and education partners right now. So, it really depends on, I think, how the next few months go, because I really think that if our pilot programs are successful, then we might be able to accelerate a couple of other steps without, I would say, the support of, a third party investment. But at the same time, if there is someone that gets involved beforehand, we just go ahead and accelerate our goals.
So Eddie, how do you take care of yourself? How do you make sure you don't burn out, before it's time? Or how do you take care of yourself?
I think it's very easy to make yourself busy all the time, but I think it's so important to just recognize what are your priorities and what's important to you. So, for example, I do spend a crazy amount of time working on Future Gen, but I also remember the people I care about. So, for example, Theo, my dog, and my girlfriend and my family. You'd be maybe surprised. I call my mother minimally every other day, if not more frequently than that. And it's just so she knows, it's she just needs that type of contact. And so it's really realizing again what's important to you.
Yeah, I think a good thing by entrepreneur, a good thing is we set our own schedule. The bad thing is we set our own schedule, right?
Yeah, I mean, we set the pace.
So how do you handle this? First of all, everyone says that what they do, they're 100% at it, right? You probably deluding yourself, right? You're probably not the best at it, right? But how do you handle giving stuff tasks off to your people, knowing they're not going to do as good as you do? How do you balance that?
A lot of trust. It's something that you have to be disciplined in. So I would say I got some early lessons in that when my early college days, when I was just fascinated about the stock market. You hear the term that investors are disciplined. And so at some point in time, you kind of, I want to say, to just invest and leave it. It's just, again, it's kind of the same thing with people. You can't just go ahead and just be overhead all the time on any particular task, especially if you want to create an environment and a culture that enables growth and a healthy form of communication. And so it was something I had to work on. And I would say that during the time from doing a lot of programs I have done from scratch, like mentorship and stuff like that in the past, I've been able to apply that with the team. And so a lot of trust, communication, setting expectations. And you know what? If there need to be more guidance of some kind, don't be afraid to also voice that, but do it in a way that it's a growth opportunity.
Talk about this. Can you talk about a time where you gave something to someone and they totally amazed you? like, you know, they could do it, but like, they like, you expect them to go like, you expect maybe C+ work, they give you like A+ work, you know? Talk about the time that happened.
Yeah, I'm thinking about our designer specifically. A lot of the MVP that's based off of initially started as chicken scratch. I had a piece of paper, I drew some stuff down.
So I'm interested. People don't realize that a startup, how important the designer is, right? I mean, they always say hire developers, product people, but man, like if your design sucks, like it's so important to have a good designer, like almost off the bat.
It really is, and I had no idea how valuable the skill set that was until working with developers, and it's like, well, what am I building? And
I didn't know that either, right? Like designers,
Yeah.
I only was like tell the developer step 1, step 2, step 3, prototype, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, build this. It's right here. What do you mean? what prototype do you mean, right? Yeah, designer is so important.
Yeah, and so speaking on her talent, in practice, she's actually not a designer in a profession, but it was something that she took up in college and was a passion project, and she just followed it through. And
You're right. It's amazing how many designers are not designed like to study design in college. Like this, like most developers nowadays. Like my developer I have now, she has a PhD in microbiology. Decides she don't want to do it, now she's a developer, right? Like I know very few developers. I mean, they're out there. It seems like the people who did not study design and development outnumber the ones that actually studied it, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, art is an expression, and some can just, I don't know, is beautiful to really watch. And so again, what Cecilia Ville was able to do, I never even imagined being like the way it was, and she just like, hey, basically said, hey, this is what we want to do, but I trust in your your capabilities. And I would even be like very stubborn in some parts, and she's like, no, trust me. And it's wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna say whatever you want to do, just do it. Like
yeah. So like that's one example out of like, I could say almost anyone on the team.
All right, so let's take a quick drink break. So actually, I have to catch up with Eddie. He had a few drinks before we even started.
We did. Surprised you didn't reach for what I thought was your favorite.
I'm trying to get rid of this one.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, remember? So this is actually my favorite, but I'm trying to get rid of these other ones.
Okay, fine. I'll help you with this other one over here. We'll save this for the final toast or something. Yeah. Aren't you glad that I said my favorite bourbon was not Jack Daniels?
Yeah, I'm definitely glad. Yeah. If you're over 21 drinking Jack Daniels, yeah, you need to question yourself. That's a good start of bourbon, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're in high school, whatever. Just a joke. Cheers. Thanks for doing this, Eddie. So Eddie's my first podcast guest in a while. So it's a new setup, finding some new things, got the TV. In a few minutes, we're gonna have Eddie do a demo of his on the TV screen for everyone to see. So next question, what are some challenges you had to overcome so far as an entrepreneur?
Well, so which one?
Yeah, exactly right.
Let me think of a recent one. Well, here's one that is so fun to talk about with the team. So there is a word known in the startup world, and I'm sure you're fairly familiar with it as well. Are you familiar with pivot?
Yes. Oh yeah. Actually, that's what I'm talking about later. Yeah, pivot.
Let me see.
You actually did a pivot, right?
Done for.
Okay.
Yeah, over the course of a year and a half. It's pretty wild. FutureGen was initially this tech-enabled mentorship program, and then it developed into this career compass that can fit in your pocket for college students. Then a live video streaming platform. Imagine LinkedIn and Twitch had a baby. And then we finally created this we reimagined what career exploration could be, and we began integrating with social media. So yeah, it's interesting. I would say like the challenges though is like, you have to ask yourself, I think something has to be like very, very normalized across startups, especially with first-time founders, is that your first idea is probably not going to be the idea that gets you through. It's a starting point. It's like a launching point, though, to springboard you to like the next series of lessons learned and insights that makes you a subject matter expert in your field. And why you're the horse to back. And so it was quite interesting to go through each of these pivots and think to myself, like, man, I've been doing this for, XYZ amount of time now. It's, people are beginning to depend on you. Like I said, like these people I've been working with have been something for over a year now. And it's, you have a sense of responsibility. You need to make sure whenever you're making a decision, it's sound, it's not just reckless, it's not just, it makes sense, not just to yourself, but a good soundboard with everyone else as well. So, again, our Gen Z career exploration platform, we didn't publicly start broadcasting that until January of this year. And from that, I think we have talked to maybe more than 20 school districts and organizations. Of that, 8 of them showing interest in our pilot program. And of that, 5 of them are the ones that are actually we're beginning to pick up and begin to really work with them. So it's interesting how things can change just like that.
So I'm gonna go back to what you said.
Yeah.
Like you said about how decision making impact people, right? I think a lot of business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs, case would be, don't realize that decision make don't only affect the employee, but the employee's family, right? Because like if your company doesn't bring in sales, you have to lay people off. That affects your employee, the kids, like, and I don't think people realize that having a good enough take on that, right? Like, so how do you, like, when you make your decisions, like take all that into account, right? I have to make decisions. I'm not right all the time, but like I have to do my best moving forward in order to take care of these families who work for my employee.
It's there's this great guy local to the Pacific Northwest, Dave Parker, and I had a very, very great talk with him in one of the sessions. I was like, hey, I'd love to just love some feedback on not what we're just working on, but on a problem that occurring. And it was around the idea of that first pivot, actually, from going from the live video streaming platform side to what we're doing now. And you said to me something that stuck with me was, are you solving a problem that is getting you above the water, it helps you tread above water? Because if you're solving something that still makes you below treading water, you're still drowning. So whatever you're doing, ensure that whatever you're working on keeps you up and above and keep going further. And so it's when you are imagining something and people have a lot of faith in your ability and what you are imagining what a world could be, you have to take into consideration that not just you are treading above water, but you're able to support the people that believe in you to also go with you and put them in a platform just to success. So not longer just tread water, but really, really stride.
That's a great point. So I haven't asked this question.
Yeah.
So with Future Gen, who's your perfect customer?
So we learned that right now is probably going to be third-party education groups or e-learning platforms. So, from our lessons learned working with school districts directly and universities is that there's a lot of stakeholders involved, and to really build something that is potentially scalable can take, honestly, 5 years. But what we have learned is that with third-party education groups, these are typically organizations that built relationships with school districts, schools, etc., for years, and already have that trust. So our ideal customers, typically these people that are entrusted to solve some of the district's biggest problems out there, and they're trying to still figure out a solution to go ahead and basically complement what's existing right in their ecosystem.
So recently you did a lot of traveling, specifically in California, right? Different school districts.
Yes.
So to my question, why focus on California, and why did you travel so much and meet these people in person?
Well, I grew up in California, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's why the only sole reason. It's yes, it's I think I just know a lot of the people in California, not in terms of like a network of decision makers, but I grew up, I come from an immigrant family. I know a lot of the community. I know a lot of the impacts that they have gone through. I can really relate to the people there. And so it's something I think every founder should do, or any problem solver, is you need to understand the perspective, the shoes of those you're trying to have an impact on. And so I understand quite well what's going on in California. And it honestly was interesting to see how universal it was when I compared it across again all these other states I was in when I did consulting for some time.
Does a person's economic demographic or background matter when you use your platform?
I would say realistically, no, it does not matter. But I would say right now we're putting ourselves in a emphasis towards risk at or at risk youth. But our platform can actually go ahead and serve as anyone that is, from city life to those that are looking for like enrichment program. But for me, again, I come from a family that, we were low income, we were immigrant status. I even maybe say that we came from like a rural community. So accessibility is so important to our team. And so it's something that anyone can really use. And that's something that we're very transparent about.
So if someone uses your platform, like pose a high school student. So who is high school students use your platform, or like entry level college students, or both?
So, it's interesting when we look at our early sign up users. Again, we're emphasizing that we're trying to work with high schoolers right now.
Okay.
But if we look into our sign up list, you're seeing the .edus. And so the jumping conclusion is like, oh, you're probably having college student, college level or students that are going through college signing up for the platform as well. And so I would say that we can take care of, again, a broad range, but it's interesting to think about. So again, we're trying to focus on the high school experience, but it's again, that problem. What do you want to do in the future? It comes up again and again and again.
So someone's a high school senior, they sign up your platform. From your point of view, what would be success from that person? Like, do they have to meet a certain metrics? They have to do something like, how does that person like meet success on your platform?
Success to me, especially with a high schooler, kind of comes there are two key things I look at. One is there a direct impact and let's say the student's motivation in classroom curriculum? So for example, there's a huge issue with classroom participation right now across high schools. A lot of people were impacted by the pandemic. People not turning in assignments. They don't know why they're learning what they're learning. They're so totally disassociated. But instead of there being why am I learning the optimum population for penguins in the South Pole? It's like, no, it's not. You're not learning that to help the penguin population. You're actually able to apply that in business or in medicine or all these other different things.
Yeah, I know Neil deGrasse Tyson, that the Black scientist, had a good thing where people were asking like, why should I learn, this geometry, this jig, this turn out all this math, right? He's like, because I'll never use it. True, you never use it, but you're missing the point. The fact you're using a part of your brain that will help you later on in life. Practice parts of your brain, you're using that you never used before, right? And that's the purpose of learning how to do this math, right? I think a lot of people don't get that.
Yeah, and if I were going to more concisely say what I was pointing out, those two things is one, we don't think there's enough healthy communication between, let's say, a high schooler and those that are trying to really support them, like a counselor, a parent, or a mentor. And it's because there's not necessarily that environment that's in place for them to speak about their wants, their dreams, etc. Because just imagine that you go to a high school counselor that you only see 15 minutes every 3 months. You're gonna open up and be like, I want to be this or that. No. And so
especially if you're a high school student.
No, yeah, exactly.
So I have a good story. It's actually a bad story, right? So one time I'm to my niece's graduation, high school graduation a long time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, first person, 3.9 grade point average, scholarship to this college. Next person, 3.7, like 10 people walk by, like high grade point average for academic scholarships. Then my niece, 3.8, community college, like what's going on, right? Like what's going on? And then, like the counselor never helped her out. Did she go to the counselor? So like, how did all these people get scholarships? And you have the same grade point average, you go to community college. Like, what am I missing here, right? So yeah. So is that on the parents, on the student, it's on the counselor,
Yeah, so again, there's like two big impacts. It's again, a lot of parents don't even know how their child really.
I mean, because you didn't go to college, how do you know how to get your kids to college, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is because my parents, I think they gave me what I needed, to be successful.
They at least gave you a fighting chance.
Yeah, they something they did well was helped me to explore my interests. And so they may have not been, gone to degrees or anything like that, but they said, like, be who you are, go for that, you'll figure it out from there. And so, they may have said, Eddie, after high school, go to college, and they may not know how to really navigate college, but again, parents are on your corner. They're in your corner. They're rooting for you, and they may not always know how, but they'll cheer you on.
Most teenage kids, like, I don't agree with that statement.
You don't think so?
I know most teenage kids will probably say that.
Oh yeah.
I don't agree with that statement.
Yeah, it's not until after you leave the house usually where you realize, like, wow, who was, like, cooking me dinner every night, who was, like, making sure that my laundry was folded.
So from your point of view, what is the purpose of college? Because some people will say it's to get you a job. Some people say it's to get you to think. Other people say it's to, like, build up social networks. From your point of view, what is the purpose of college?
I think it's honestly a tool. It's a place for you to grow. And it's like any tool, there's a way to properly use it and there's a way to misuse it. And so if you go in there with, like, kind of, again, a goal, then it can be very, very purposeful. But sometimes I would say it's, especially like when you're 18, 17, sometimes making a decision like, hey, that could impact your whole life. It's very, very easy to make a decision maybe with the wrong, or maybe not the best intent, unfortunately.
So I can't think of his name, but one of the talk show hosts, the one with the red hair, can't remember his name, but
Ron Weasley? No, sorry.
No, not him. No, he used to be on TBS, but he actually graduated from Harvard, right? And he was in an interview talking about how he went to Harvard or whatever. Like, how's he going to Harvard? Like, he said, like, I knew I was the dumbest kid there, right? But I didn't care because my degree, it just says my name. It doesn't say dumbest kid at Harvard. It says Harvard degree, right?
Yeah.
I thought that's a good, like, outlook to have, right? Like, you have this degree. Now, having said that, do you think it matters what college you go to? I mean, of course, I'm guessing if you go to Harvard versus, North Dakota Technical Institute, might be a difference. But is there really a difference between Stanford and Harvard and University of Texas and Texas Tech and Washington State?
I would say, unfortunately, yes. I personally don't like the reasons for it. I mean, I've experienced it myself. I mean, I went to UC Davis, which is a world-renowned school for environmental sciences and also veterinary sciences. But outside of that, not so much. And so I remember that one of my biggest decisions in life was to either go to potentially, continue my profession in the San Francisco area, or go to Southern California and start from scratch. And so when I did that, I ended up going to Southern California and starting my whole career from scratch down there. Again, no network, no nothing. And I realized how important and how that school name could be, because in Southern California, the schools that dominate are UC San Diego, UCLA, USC, for all the opportunities that I was looking for. But no one's going to bat an eye at a school that is in Northern California.
Yeah.
So it's I don't like it. It's just what it is.
Yeah. So growing up in California, did you grow up in like a big city environment, like a rural country environment?
I kind of had an interesting flavor of different places. So I grew up in Southern California in the outskirts of the Greater Los Angeles area. Think of like Pomona. I grew up specifically in Ontario, which is actually San Bernardino County, but it's again that cross border there. But I grew up there till I was about 10, and then my family moved to Northern California, to Monterey County, and it was a huge transition to, I thought what dark was, like a creepy alley, to, oh, there's no light in this tar road. Oh my God, are there monsters in the dark? I could believe it. So it was again, country boy kind of. I grew up as a city boy, but grew up in the country as well.
So you mentioned this a little bit ago, but you talk about this on, like, people talk about accessibility, right? Usually they talk about, like, rich versus poor, black versus white, but I think a bigger one is like city versus rural, right? Because, if you're in the city, Seattle, San Francisco, you're gonna have access to the internet, all that kind of stuff. It's not the same in, like, rural areas, right? A lot of rural areas have no internet at all, right? Like,
I mean, I remember my peers, they had high speed internet and I was still go to the library to write my book reports. And that was like, I think high speed internet existed for at least 4 or 5 years.
Get to
4 or 5 years, sorry.
nowhere. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know like Elon Musk doing a lot, doing this like what's it called, Space Link or Starlink, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think it's
And there's
Starlink.
like Hughes and that, but yeah, a lot of if you live in the country, like you really have no internet. And it's such a disadvantage, I think.
Yeah, it's again, especially when you're a youth, you only know what you know.
Mhm.
And so if you grew up just around corn mazes, then or cornfields, like how can you imagine anything different? I mean, one of the school districts that we're having trying to launch a pilot program is in Southern Illinois. I think is Mount Vernon High School. And they I literally called them up and was like, what are the kind of opportunities that are kind of local to the area? And they mentioned there's cornfields, you can work in a tire manufacturing site, and there's a body farm. And often I'll tell them what's a body farm?
What is the body farm?
It's think of it as like for forensic purposes.
Okay.
So that maybe like they're trying to like investigate like there's a homicide or something like that. They maybe will test the decomposition of certain scenarios.
So I'm gonna throw a random question that came to my head.
What's up?
Who's your favorite Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire, the other guy, or Tom Holland?
Like I said, the other guy, Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. That's it. Andrew
Yeah,
Garfield,
yeah. No, it's
can't even remember his name.
Tobey Maguire, man. He's kind of like he's the OG.
Yeah, and Garfield, he got a lot of shit at first, but now I think more people appreciate his performance. At first he came like, man, you're a horrible Spider-Man. Like this is crap. But now I think more people like really appreciate his performance.
Yeah, I mean, he's each of them have like their own different again, create a twist to the character. And all of them fall under the Spider-Man's theme and universe. So I like Andrew Garfield personally.
But Toby is OG. Like he definitely brought it to light. Like, yeah.
He's my childhood, man. He was like, yeah.
And then from like so Andrew, he didn't have a Mary Jane. Andrew had Gwen Stacy, right?
Yeah.
So the two Mary Janes and Gwen, which one do you like the best? Which one do you think was the best performer, or whatever you want to characterize it? Like
okay, I'm like if I'm thinking of like comics,
you got your best Spider-Man. Which one is your best? I guess best Spider's girlfriend.
Well, if I'm speaking just specifically on the theater, I will always have a bias towards MJ, because
the first one.
Yeah, the first one, because that's the original. How can you like outbeat the originals? And like I know Gwen Stacy is cool and all that.
Yeah, I'm with the Zendaya one. I just like her personality, her darkness.
Okay.
Yeah, I like her her personality. Yeah, with her.
Yeah, I remember I had this Spider-Man like encyclopedia book, and it talked about all the girlfriends that Spider-Man had, and Gwen Stacy.
He didn't do bad, for skinny chump high school student. Like he didn't do half bad.
No, you got to give him some credit.
Yes, and you're also a big Star Wars fan too, right?
I am. I would say that. I don't know if anybody's watching the Mandalorian season 3
I just watched the first episode.
Well, the second one's out.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got some catching up to do, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait till they do the Ahsoka series.
Oh yeah, that's coming up too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there was a love-hate transition between when Disney got their hands involved.
I know, right? It's like, man, I don't know. Those last Star Wars movies, I don't know. Like I'll say it out loud, The Last Jedi, that's to me, that's complete trash, right? It's like, to me, it's horrible. I know a lot of people like it. Now I did love the fight scene with Rey and and what's that guy's name? Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
When he killed Snoke, and then they fought those Emperor guards, that's a badass scene. I did like that.
Yeah, but then you go into Rogue One and Darth Vader has like that 30-second scene. You're like,
you know what? I almost fucked up and walked out before that scene.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you did.
I thought this is over with,
I bet you're glad you didn't.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad, yeah.
No.
And of course, every Star Wars fan is waiting and begging for like the actual Darth Vader movie, right? Like, but but they'll probably never make it because that'd be too dark. You ever reading the books?
I read a handful of them.
So there's a book called Dark Lord Rising. It talks about Vader from the time from when Obi-Wan jacked him up.
Yeah.
Like his first 3 years, like how he was killing Jedi, doing stuff. It's pretty like how he got dark and stuff. Yes, it's a pretty good book. If they made that to a movie, that'd be right on time. But who knows?
I again, as long as they do it right, as long as they have I forgot who was the director.
Oh, I need to talk about was it John? Not John Burst. That's someone else. I know you're talking about.
Yeah,
He's
but
the one that made a joke like he had to go to the hospital because he broke his back carrying Star Wars on his shoulders.
yeah, yeah,
Now, one thing I'd give Disney credit for, they seem to get Darth Vader correct, right? Because they got him right in Rogue One. They got the Darth Vader series right. At least my point of view, right?
yeah,
Everything else, I don't know.
yeah. Again, it was again, I was the fan that my dad, when the so you had the original trilogy,
Mm.
then you had the like the
Yeah.
pre-trilogy, and then you got to like the newer Disney ones.
Yeah.
And so my dad would take me to theaters with the prequel. And so I would I was just such a fan. I just remember like staying like, as late at night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then so when they made the announcement with the newest trilogy, I was ecstatic. I was
Yeah.
just like, this is, oh my God, this is good. I'm gonna live my dream, man. I'm gonna relive it. And so I remember that year, I don't dress up for Halloween, but I ended up getting a costume for my favorite character in Star Wars, Han Solo, and I went all out. So I got like a good like fitted costume and all that, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna be probably wearing this more than once. So this is like a good investment. And so I remember driving from um, near Sacramento, California, all the way to Southern California to watch this new movie with my siblings and my cousins. And I knew within like the first 10, 15 minutes that it was going to be like, no,
Yeah.
they did not. And then, then they killed Han Solo.
Yeah.
And I was like,
was that a movie where they spent like 30 minutes running through casinos and stuff?
They spent 30 minutes wrong in many different places.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever watch the animated cartoon series, The Clone Wars?
Yeah. No.
To me, that was like way better than the Disney movies.
Yeah.
To me, it tied in like, from New Hope to Revenge of the Sith like perfectly.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on there.
Basically how dark, and he started going dark, the stuff he was doing, like force choking people and stuff, you go, okay, I can tell how he's going like that on the wrong path.
Yeah, it's again, there's a lot of realization. Again, there's a lot of lessons that are taught in the George Lucas world there, Star Wars universe. And a lot of people get just excited about the lightsaber scenes, but like, well, what's the weight behind the build up?
Do you think he regrets selling out to Disney? Like, man, I was going to have that, what's it, $5 billion back?
It's I personally,
I mean, that's a lot of money to turn down.
Strong believer of yeah, it is. A strong believer of living a life of not having regrets.
Yeah.
And what ifs have a particular weight to them. I wouldn't be surprised if he had like a what if scenario.
Yeah. Like, what kind of ideas did he have? Like, man, I would have done this, I would have done that, like. So somebody posted on Facebook a long time ago. They basically said, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm tired of the Skywalker stuff, right?
Mhm.
Let's do a Star Wars. You go back in time when like there was no rule of Sith up to like there's like hundreds of Sith, hundreds of Jedi, the Old Republic, and do a movie about that, right? So man, that'd be a pretty cool idea.
That'd be pretty cool. I love their comics about it, like Knights of the Old Republic and all that.
Cool. So let's back to some startup stuff real fast while you're geeking out. So we talk about your challenges. How do you convince someone to come on with you? Like, I think I might have asked you that before, but like, how do you, maybe we rephrase that. What kind of values do you want someone to have that works for you?
Well, you have to have a love for the same problem area. So again, when I was,
and how do you figure that out?
yeah. So what I did to find those people out is, again, I had this, this really thick Eagle Scout book. Again, it's like literally right there. I still carry it with me. And I actually just reached out and I said, hey, I'm looking for some feedback on what I think is a real problem. Can I borrow some of your time? And so in doing that, I ended up talking to, honestly, finding my team actually. And when I realized that I was having like very fruitful discussions with individuals, I would then, at some point just pull the trigger and just not be shy about it. And so it was, again, you have to have a love for the problem area you guys are trying to solve for. And again, not in a solution, but in the problem area. And so in doing that, I was actually able to find people in our corner.
So how do you, so we all say, well, I'm busy, but how do you personally switch from being just busy to actually being productive?
I think it's the 80-20 rule is very, very applicable in many scenarios. And it also includes being a founder. Because, for example, yes, there is a lot of planning across the your team. You're talking to your developers, talking to your designers, talking to your marketing side, and facilitating all together. Getting the applied research into the product. But what is like the 20% of let's say effort they can do that 80% of people would really care about? Let's say closing a customer. If you just close the customer, or we're able to do a successful closing, like let's say with an investor, heck, people are going to be like, you can still be doing all this busy movement and stuff like that, but people are going to be like, that was some really good activity there. So you got to really think about the activities that again push the needle forward.
What's a skill that you're like decent at, but you wish you could get better at, that you need to work on to make yourself better at this skill?
Probably time management. Again, I would say I can do better in terms of prioritizing that 80-20. So for example, I can startup world, there's different priorities throughout the entire day, but there probably should be some core tasks that you should diligently always be making progress with. And so I would say, again, when you're trying to build a relationship with investors, that's not like a one-day thing. That's an ongoing thing. When you're building a relationship with customers, that's not a one-time thing. That is an all-the-time thing. And so you can easily find yourself distracted with all these other things that are just screaming for your name. But you got to remember to go back to, again, those very core principles.
And how long have you been in Seattle so far?
A little more than a year. I moved here, I think, in February last year.
And you've been involved with the startup scene since you got here, right?
Sorry, say more.
You've been involved like this tech startup since you got here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I would definitely say I put my all in. And before that, it was maybe 5 months.
So from your experience, from your year here, what are some pros and cons about the Seattle tech scene?
I think, again, every question a founder should ask themselves of, are you in a city that truly inspires you to innovate? And so for Seattle, it did it for me. And so there's a lot of things I love about Seattle. So for example, city has their own pace, and Seattle specifically, I think is a lot more close knit, but in a way that I personally like. Like, for example, I don't like the question, oh, what do you do? To be the first thing after like not even knowing who your name is. And I don't get that vibe here in Seattle. It's a conversation. Yeah, you do get into those little talks, but after at least 5 minutes of getting to know who you are and stuff like that, getting a sense. I would say the breach, or I would say the barrier to get access to the startup ecosystem is a little bit elevated here, but it's not impossible to go through. Like, for example, I have no work here in Seattle, but I would say that I'm probably not an unfamiliar name to a lot of the people involved in the startup Pacific Northwest ecosystem.
You have to make an effort, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like make one attempt. Oh, I emailed so-and-so, never responded, so I'll give up, right? You gotta put yourself out there and like you said, build in public, like you like to say.
Yeah, you got to reach out a bit more. And I would say like in San Francisco, the Bay Area, you probably don't have to do it as much because that ecosystem is kind of built in place to support that. Here, you just got to reach a little further, not like, breaking your back kind of way, but there is a healthy ecosystem that's here.
Talk about the importance of networking for entrepreneurs. Well, let me phrase that. Talk about the importance of networking, however, you still have to like build your product right. So how do you do that balance? Meeting people, building your product. You can't do all of it, right?
No, I think there's a lot of truth to your network is your net worth. And I would say don't take it in the way of like, hey, surround yourself by, the rich and the famous, but is actually across so many different spectrums. Like, for example, I'm trying to build something that is in education. So my network amongst educators is very valuable. Not just network with investors, or again, knowing your network is your net worth. There's so many different verticals of that. So I would say have a different web of people within the startup community versus the investor community versus the educator community versus the software tech community versus it's there again, there's just so many different ways to really apply that.
So talk about this. How do you deal with hearing no? You can hear no probably. You talk to 100 investors, probably hear no not at least 99 times. You sell your product, you probably hear no half the time. You, as an entrepreneur, you hear no over and over again, right? Talk about how you personally deal with hearing no without like mentally breaking you.
It's I think with every no gets you closer to a yes. There's probably a reason behind the no. So listen carefully to why that no is there. And you can learn a lot from that. Again, a victory isn't done overnight. It's over a triumphant of many, many small wins. And so even in loss, there is win. Through a no, there is a lesson. With a no, there is a way to grow further, to reach feedback, to reach further.
Eddie, what's your red line? Like what this happened, you're gonna stop, right? Where it may be, maybe like your savings account goes to zero, or like what's your red line? I think important founders have a red line when they don't meet, they didn't stop. Like my red line is, and my wife put it for me. I can't touch a house, right? I can't do a HELOC, can't do a second mortgage. That's my red line. So what would be your red line?
2 years. 2 years is my red line.
Does that give you enough time though?
You know,
and when does that 2 year start though?
So I was a part of this entrepreneurial academy back in 2020. And as I was giving a presentation on the earliest iterations of Future Gen, I caught the attention of a couple of VCs in the Sacramento SF area. And I unfortunately did not win that academy, but they took me aside and said, "Hey, Eddie, you should have won that competition hands down. Not even, there should have not even been a close second." And they asked me like, "So what's the problem? You know, why is it, why are there are these challenges that you're experiencing?" And I was saying like, I'm a consultant full time, that 80-hour a week thing is very real. There's a lot of different competing interests. And so when something's not your focus, it's hard to really go ahead and apply a lot of lessons learned and cash on the details, etc. So the VC, one of the VC guys, I think his name is John, I'm trying to remember his last name. He pulled me on the side, "Hey, Eddie, you know what? Spent 2 years on this and just give it your all. See where that takes you. I promise you, you'll go so much further and you read it." So that 2 year journey began October 1st, 2020.
Okay.
Or 2021. Yeah.
22.
2. Yeah. 2. Sorry.
So last year, right?
This is technically the second year. It's 21. 21.
So you're saying you have until October?
Yeah, I technically have until October of this year.
That's like a weekend away when you think about it.
Yeah, but we pivoted 4 times. We have these pilot programs that are in place. We actually have some big contracts that are in talks in California right now.
So October comes, where do you have to be at to keep on going? Like a certain number of revenues, a number of customers, like where do you have to be at for you to keep on going?
I think there has to be a milestone that's met for us to go to the next stage. Okay. So I consider us right now, we're, pre-revenue or at this MVP stage. Well, I think to me, what indicates keep going is you were able to go ahead and get investment for the next round, or you're able to go ahead and have customers that are coming back. So it's something that I think either of those two things, if they're satisfied, then I'm like, whoa, we did a lot in 2 years. There's more fuel in the tank.
So what is the who actually pays for your product?
So in terms of like who the customer is?
Yeah, like who actually pays you the money?
So there's 2. So one is actually the parent of the child that is trying to figure themselves out. The second is, again, is indirectly school districts, but school districts that pay for usually a third party interest group that then pays us. So, like, for example, there's this contract in California that we're pursuing where it's for statewide implementation for apprenticeships. So they won the contract from the state, and they're trying to look for a technological solution to help them augment their goal. And so we're being seen as a potential platform.
So Eddie, I'm gonna get this term wrong, probably. Are you like first generation or second generation immigrant?
I'm a first generation.
First generation?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that story? Like, I hate to say there were pros and cons, like, like some rewards of being first generation immigrant, like challenges, like just all that deep dive in that.
Yeah. So I'd say like how my family ended up here in the States. There's actually two different takes. So speaking of my mother specifically, she comes from Ecuador. And so there was a potential opportunity that her family believed that they were going to get, that she was able to get here in the United States. So unfortunately, though, things did not go as planned when she did come into the States.
And she came here by herself, or she was married?
She came here by herself. I think she was around like 10 or 11, maybe 12.
Ecuador is people don't know, it's in South America, like top of South America, right?
Yeah. It's think of it, it's on the equator, Ecuador, the equator.
I can remember. I think Ecuador is like one of the top 10 countries, like American retirees to go live when they retire. I think it's like one of those top countries.
I definitely know they sell a lot of roses for Valentine's Day for here in the States. They also, if you look in the grocery store, you'll notice probably a lot of bananas.
So your mother came all the way by herself?
Yeah.
I'm guessing she didn't have a last flight from Ecuador to like Texas, right? She probably had to walk the whole way or something, I'm guessing. Or
I think she's going on a plane.
Okay.
But she went with another family.
Okay.
That other family promised her some things, and unfortunately, it's some things were oversold.
The old bait and switch problem.
Yeah. Now, when it came to my father's side, so my father is technically a first generation for his family. So his story is along lines like, my last name again, it comes, if said in Spanish, is Mazariegos, it comes from Spain. And we spent a lot of time in Guatemala. So his family immigrated from Guatemala to the States. So they were impacted by I think the Civil War conflict that was ongoing there.
Yeah. And what are some how do I word this? Advantages of being an immigrant? Disadvantages?
That's actually the first time I've been asked the question that way. The advantage of being an immigrant.
Because some would say, most immigrants are more hardworking. They preach the American dream more. They're like all in. Where most Americans like, yeah, I'm not going to work at McDonald's. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Where most immigrants like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity and make the most of it. No matter how small it is.
I think something I've learned is that we're very, very adaptable. Whatever the scenario is. So I think that's an advantage that I've been able to leverage. It's with every problem, there's an opportunity. I would say oftentimes being multilingual is a great benefit as well. Being able to speak, English and let's say Spanish business professionally is like very, 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 very good to have. I would say another big advantage too would maybe be you definitely value things have a greater weight, I think, than I would say if it wasn't earned. It was like already like not obligation, but it's already given.
Yeah, most Americans already given everything,
Yeah, it's there's a way to say it and all that, but it's like, it's like, for example, money to me was like, I remember like when I opened up a bank account, I was like, oh my gosh, this is my first account. Oh my gosh, all my money's in there. I was so proud of it. I'm like, I'm earning interest. Like I didn't know about inflation, all that. I was like, oh my God.
You didn't realize you actually losing money.
Yeah. Versus like, I remember another good friend of mine, he was like, oh, you have only that much in your account? My family puts this in my account. Yeah. And so I'm like, cool.
And so let's suppose you met someone tomorrow and they're like 18 years old and they say, I just came here I'm a new immigrant. I just got here yesterday. Like, I know nothing. I'm here with my parents. Like, we're trying to figure stuff out. What advice should I have for them?
I would say this is a very important time for you to have an honest reflection who you are, because especially right now in your new place, you're going to want to blend in, but there comes a point to blending in may not be the best. I would say really,
So sometimes you need to stand out, right?
yeah, but it's just know who you are, what kind of person you want to be. Like, who, just know that the decisions that you're making right now, can you go back to your 10-year-old self and look at him and have that 10-year-old look up to you, be proud of who he's going to become, he or she's going to become. So it's your decisions have an impact, and I know that it's, especially when you're new, you just want to there's like a lot of acceptance that's wanted. But believe it or not, wherever you go, you being you, there are going to be people that they love you for being you.
So have you found like being an immigrant has given you advantages like over like regular Americans? Like, have you seen how like have you like compare yourself to hate to compare yourself like you're an immigrant, a regular American? Like, man, I have so much more focus, so much more drive than this person does. Or you think everything's evenly balanced? I don't know if I probably didn't word that correctly.
Mm, I mean,
Like, you find yourself having more drive than most other people around you.
I guess I know my friends definitely would. They would probably say, "Oh my God, Eddie, like you overachiever or something like that." But I don't see it that way personally. I see it more as like
Most overachievers don't.
I'm just like I'm doing this because I care about it. But most of my friends be like, "Oh my God, Eddie, if anyone was gonna build a startup, it was going to be you." So it's interesting to think of it in that way. I honestly never really saw a lot of the advantages / disadvantages. I
Yeah,
just saw myself as like,
I
hey,
think there's advantage and disadvantage to everything, right?
yeah,
Where you're in life, there's an advantage and disadvantage to everything. It just
yeah.
say you take advantage of the advantage more than the disadvantage taking a disadvantage of you, I think.
I feel like I could have taken more advantage if I would have embraced my identity more.
Mhm.
I personally was a little bit, honestly, I was shameful of my, being Hispanic or anything like that, but I didn't want to be given handouts.
Yeah.
Like I wanted it because I earned this. It wasn't because of the color of my skin. I was able to get these achievements or get these opportunities presented to me. But to be frank, I think if I was, if I can somewhat give that advice to like, hey, gotta be like, hey, you know what? To be honest, they're there for a reason. These are people in your corner. They want to help you.
And you're doing your pre-seed fundraise right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you can't tell all the details or secrets you're doing, but can you tell us the overall plan for your fundraise? Like, you have a certain group of investors you're reaching out to, or you doing in Seattle, the Bay Area? Like, are you only reaching out to like, obviously only reach out to ed tech investors, right? But what's your schematic for that, so to speak?
Yeah, so I would say the kind of realm that we fall under is, yeah, education technology, also future of work, also a bit of long-term play HR. Um, you know, I can speak more on that, how that's related, but um, I would say is again more of those pre-seed type of funds, seed funds. Although it's also very important to also make these relationships with those Series A and beyond.
Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people miss the importance, right? You're doing pre-seed, but you still got to build relationship for A and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be fundraising with new people tomorrow. You want people to have this trust in you over time.
And off the top of your head, how many investors have you talked to so far?
Oh.
If this is an estimate.
That's if I had a guess, probably at least around 100 in the sense of like having a discussion.
100, that's a good number. So that 100, like, what percentage do you think, or like interest is? What percent, like, man, I wasted my time talking to this guy? Can you break those percentages down?
I would say I wholesomely believe like maybe 10% of those are ones that I feel like these are really good fits. These are people
That's actually a pretty high number. That's good.
Yeah, but for like different things, like I think there would be different priorities, different stages. So like, for example, you want to make sure that where you're working with probably has the appropriate network for like, let's say education, or again, with at-risk youth, or again, like later on roads. But it's again, you gotta like look at where you are today, plan where you're gonna want to go tomorrow. Because again, some funds only support up to
the
seed.
Yeah. Here's one for you. So when I first started this, people would say, like, if you talk to an investor and you pitch them and they say no, like, don't ask them for an introduction, right? Because like, why would they introduce you to a friend of theirs if they didn't invest you, right? Then I learned a thing about dry powder, right? So maybe like they didn't invest because they dry powder. Dry powder is like the money they have left to invest in like funds, right? Or maybe they don't invest in that, right? I mean, lots of ideas, right? I just said so many people saying, "Oh, to ask for intro." I'm like, why not ask for intro? Because you don't know why they didn't invest you. I mean, maybe they tell you, maybe they don't, but like, I always thought that was a bad advice. Where I got early in my start career, so to speak, right? Don't ask for introduction. So someone who tells you no, like, like you're an investor. I come talk to you and like, man, Jason, I'm not gonna invest in you. I do research. Like, you can't invest because like you have no money left to invest, right? Why not ask the intro? I just think so many people give wrong advice on that. This is my opinion.
I think there's actually a lot of respect that's given by an investor when a founder is not afraid to ask for something.
I agree.
So, for example, like a lot of the people that have been telling me that, oh, you're not ready now, come back later. I'll be like, well, okay, well, this is what I'm looking for now. Is there anybody in your that you can recommend reaching out to? Because it also puts them on a test.
Yeah.
It puts them like, how good is your network? How connected are you? And so it becomes an exercise for them.
Yeah.
And it gives you a little bit of a taste like what it could potentially be.
It's a two-way street,
Yeah.
Like, most people don't realize that. Of course, it is like lean towards them a lot because like most founders can barely get one investor, and they got to take it, so to speak, but a lot of founders, like, they'll have like 4 or 5 term sheets, right? And then, which one do you pick?
It's hopefully has to be with someone again that you can see yourself working with for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the stats show like you're with your VC person longer than most people are married nowadays.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, out there says that. The most marriages now average like 8 years, and like your VC is gonna last like at least 10 years for you.
Man, double digits.
Yeah. So you better like make sure you like that person, and get along,
Yeah, it really depends on the thesis of the fund.
Yes, that's a good point too. Thesis of the fund. That's a good point. So what would you take for you not to have someone invest in you? Like, suppose like you met someone and they want to invest in you. What would it be like, like for you not to say yes? Like, okay, like either you didn't like this person or like the values didn't align with you. Like,
I think I have to know why they're investing. So I think a very good reason for me to say no is I don't really want investor money that I would say is like where they have a dead presence, in the sense that, oh, here's a cash cow, take my money. I think you have a great vision and all that. Because I really want to work with someone that is provides more value than just the cash. Again, as a first-time founder, especially, there is probably a lot of learning opportunities through someone that is able to give insight on terms of their experience. So not saying like I expect the investor to work for me, but again, I do believe guidance can go a long way.
Good point. So next we're gonna try something I haven't done before here at the podcast. So as you see, I have the TV screen set up. We're gonna actually have Eddie do a demo of his product real fast and see how this works.
Yeah, so I'm a little excited too. Nervous but excited, This is
So I'll be on this other screen. Just give me directions.
Yeah, so I guess to give a little intro. So again, our Future Gen is this Gen Z career exploration platform for high schoolers. What we do is we show students their interests applied in the world around them using social media videos. And then we share these insights with parents, teachers, counselors to help them guide their students with the next best steps to continue to explore their innate interest. And so this is one of our models that we're putting together for one of our upcoming pilot programs. This is typically what we show school districts and decision makers before they decide whether or not they want to take the next steps with us. So with that, Jason, I'm going to ask you to skip some of this boring stuff. So right here is actually just like a little screenshot of of our website. So please click. And, there's some sign up information, stuff like that. But this isn't where the cool stuff really is. So imagine that you signed up, Jason. Click through, and you are now an admin user, and you're going to get ready to send your invitation to a student user. Please select again. And this is the next step here is where things get cool. So I don't know if anybody here has ever done a like a career assessment where you answer a couple of questions and then it says, hey, based on your answers, you should be a plumber, an accountant, a lumberjack or something like that. Well, our team hates them. We believe people are way more dynamic. What do you want to do in the future is more about self-discovery. So how do you enable that? And so this is where some of our ways of reimagining what this fun alternative career assessment can look like. And so next slide, please. And so imagine that there is a platform that is able to go ahead and instead of asking you questions like, hey, how great is your reading comprehension? Instead, you're watching videos that goes over, let's say, business or healthcare or law and public safety to get rid of the grammatical context that can cause confusion to students. And basically we are able to measure their interests. Next slide. And so what you end up seeing is actually an example of something like this, which is a student that is maybe looking through the healthcare services section, and they're seeing a clip from YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reel, and in that, they're actually able to get an actual idea of what healthcare services looks like without actually being asked, so what do you think about becoming a doctor? So next slide. And so after a student goes through a series of videos, eventually they get prompted this question, like, how well did you like these collection of videos? Or what do you think about healthcare services after this? And so we're actually able to, again, measure their engagement on how much they liked or disliked or watch time, and whether or not they actually gave us a hard yes or no on whether or not they had an interest in an area. And so next slide. And so we do this across a large breadth of industries. So communications, transportation, this here is education. And after they have gone through the initial 10 categories that we have, they get a snapshot of the results. So next slide, please. This is an example of one. So this student here, it's probably like very, very small to everybody, but top right-hand side demonstrates industries that a student has said they really have a strong interest with, how much watch time and how much they engage positively with the series of videos that they're watching. And so with this, you're then able to show this to a counselor who is then able to say like, oh, it looks like this person loved communications. Let's go ahead and let the student know about the opportunities to continue exploring communications on the platform, or within the school's resources. Like maybe there is a good media photography course that the student was unaware of that they can take an opportunity with. And so that's kind of this in a tiny nutshell. It's an opportunity again for the student to explore their interest, and past this point, they're able to look at the, career possibilities, educational possibilities, and skills that are very valued across an interest. And down the road, we're hearing that there's interest in like maybe putting this in the classroom, like let's say, a biology teacher to go ahead and express what are the opportunities in biology that they can find in the classroom. And so they can go ahead and help their students engage more with the curriculum. But yeah, that's thank you so much for the opportunity there.
Yeah, so I don't really know if that showed up on the TV screen or not. I'm going to check it out. I definitely got, but we're definitely sending a demo out to people who ask for it. But I definitely got to make that better. Yeah, but thanks for that demo, Eddie.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions or would even want access to an early version of this, please let me know. You can find me on LinkedIn. We have a website, FutureGen. xyz.com. Sorry for that shameless plug there,
No,
Jason.
but you're going to get plenty of opportunities to plug yourself in a minute. So Eddie, what do you so besides your relationship with your dog, you take your dog to the dog park for fun. What other things do you do for fun?
I go outside.
Outside, you're an outside person.
I am. As a Boy Scout, I did get that green foot. So I have my camping gear that I still have from Boy Scout days that probably should get replaced. But I invested in great equipment. So yeah, I do camp quite a bit.
So you're definitely a good place for camping, being outside in this area.
Yeah, although I would say I don't like camping in the rain necessarily. I like to be a little drier.
Yeah, there's that, right?
No, that actually reminds me of a funny story, if you don't mind me sharing.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, in California, my preferred way of camping was not with a tent. It was actually through a method that my father taught me. It was he taught me how to create a poncho tent. And so he learned that when he was in the army, and it's a very lightweight. You just have a rain poncho.
Everyone in the army learns that skill like the first couple of weeks. Yeah.
That was my primary way of like going ahead and camping for a long time. And I remember this one time, my troop did a 50-miler down the American River in California, and while we were rafting, a sudden summer lightning storm just hit us. And we're on water. What do you do when you see lightning? You get out. And so I get out. Everybody else gets out. There's a whole other like mini series. Like we had to get towed, rescued, and everything. And we landed this like camper, like RV campsite. And they said like, "Oh, come in, take our garage. It's totally cool." But what ended up being an amazing memory was my dad came with me on that trip. And while everybody was making a beeline to the garage to get themselves dry, he was making his way over to some trees. And I'm like, there's no, it is lightning and thunder. It's raining cats and dogs. There's occasionally some hail. And I'm like, we're going to drown outside tonight. And so we pitch up our poncho tents on these tiny twigs. They're not even like on the main branches. And I had one of the best sleeps of my life. Woke up dry as
and you never forget that memory.
No, never.
But you were like, what is my crazy dad doing? What's he doing?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, I'm his son. I gotta do this. Yeah.
That's crazy. How's your drink coming?
It's good.
Good.
It's again second place.
Yeah. This one is definitely first place, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you as an entrepreneur, you have 1,000 things to do every day. How do you make sure you do numbers 1, 2, and 3 versus number 99 or 100?
I think the night before, I think to myself already, what's the number one thing I got to get done the next day? Like it cannot wait. It is a must-do activity. And so there's a great book. It's The One Thing. I'm trying to remember the author's name. But again, if you're able to just accomplish one thing and never need to go back on it, then that's just one thing off the checklist.
And talk about this, like some people I'm not making progress, but people don't realize even if you only do one thing, that if things important enough, that's still moving the needle forward, right? Like you've done something, you go into this one thing, right?
Yeah, imagine you did that for 365 days. That's 365 steps in the right direction.
Talk about how you do this. Entrepreneur, like, what's the saying? If you don't see the forest for the trees. Like one time, I make myself do every once in a while. I make myself like look back like 6 months ago, right? Oh wow, I have done a lot of stuff for 6 months, right? If you just look at the day, like man, I'm failing, I'm doing shit. But you look back in time, like man, I've actually done this, I've done that, right? Maybe it's not. Well, it's not. Maybe it's probably not as fast as not really. Probably definitely not as fast as you want to go, but at least you can see the progress you made, right?
Yeah, there's when I was at Hyundai, there was a lot of work that was being done. There's a lot of change, not bad change, but it's just like we were doing a lot of upgrades across the entire company in terms of best practices. And so and because we were always busy, we always felt like we were behind. And we set very, very ambitious year-end goals. And by the time we hit the year it would end, we didn't reach the expectation. But a really good friend of mine that worked in a different department. He was the national manager, or he is the national manager for systems. Saw how Margie, he would pull me on the side and say, you know, Eddie, it's there's a lot people tend to overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but when they reflect on what they've been able to accomplish, you are often surprised.
Yeah,
So
they definitely are.
yeah, it's I think that's very true.
So here's one for you. So I was also in the Army, and we used to always say in the Army, you try to like do these long year plans, like 3-4 year plans, right? Plan out. We used to always say, how do you expect your plan a year out when I'm in a 6-inch knife fight right now, right?
Yeah.
I think the same entrepreneur, right? People like they'll plan out, do your 5-year financials, do this. If you want to be like, dude, I'm in a knife fight right now. I'm trying to like make payroll. I'm trying to, do this. I'm trying to do that. But I developed this left. I'm on a knife fight right now. I don't have time to do this. But you have to do both, right? You have to like maybe split half between the knife fight and half between future planning some kind of way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as a founder, you're putting how many different hats on at one time. So there's some of that always.
Yeah, what kills me too, like people say, like you have a marketing person. Marketing should be your number one focus. Then a product person. Product should be number one purpose. Like all these different specialties, like this should be your number one purpose. Sales. You can't grow a company without sales, right? Like everything can't be number one, right? And one thing I failed a lot of times, like I'll focus on one thing and I'll like, oh, I got to do this, right? So I have a trouble sometimes fixing back and forth. That makes any sense, right? That's something I've definitely failed on. Like, okay, I'm focused on this. I'm here. Oh crap, this came up. Then you go over here, right? And then this goes like from here down to here, right? That's like, what's this thing where you have like all these pails of water and stuff. You're trying to hold the water and stuff, or juggling glass balls, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, it's when are you not doing that? And I would say that often it's the same thing when you are someone that cares about a problem, whether it's in a startup environment or in a corporate environment or just some sort of team environment, you're gonna feel like that all the time. And it's if you like it, it's an amazing feeling to have. Because I personally, I would say I thrive in chaos. I'm the kind of person that I love that. The reshifting of or reprioritizing of what must be accomplished and making your best judgment call on that, because it's who's the captain in that seat is actually you.
So something personal, like, so you have a girlfriend, right?
I do.
How long have y'all been together?
Just over 2 years.
So I'm gonna presume that your girlfriend supports everything you do, right?
Yes.
As far as, let me rephrase that. Your girlfriend supports you being an entrepreneur, the startup journey. She might support everything you do, but she supports the entrepreneurship thing you're doing, right?
I'm very lucky to have met someone that is very, very supportive in terms of, my dreams, etc. It's, again, she's quite the special gal.
So talk about how hard it would be for you to be an entrepreneur if your girlfriend did not support you. I mean, maybe like overtly saying stop doing this. Maybe like you tell her your day, you're like, yeah, whatever, like we're not supportive, so to speak. How difficult it would make it for you?
I think it make it quite challenging. Again, I care for the people that are around me and I surround myself with, and so if she were to do that, I would kind of go into care mode, which is like, oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? And so I would say, again, if you can't take care of yourself, how can you expect to take care of others if you can't take care of yourself? And so in that kind of scenario, it's I do have a deep care for her. And so if I really would never wish to have a casualty in terms of my pursuits in that way. Again, I would like to figure out a way where there are none.
And what does your girlfriend do?
She's a data analyst for another startup, actually.
Okay.
They're called Truveta. They're a
so she knows the lifestyle you're living, all that kind of stuff. It's not like she's working for corporate America and like anything like that. She did. So she knows, at least she knows what you're doing.
Oh yeah, she was always very aware of what I've been. I never was. I'm always an open book.
Yes. So, are you gonna be doing any pitch competitions anytime soon?
I'm trying to pitch those sales.
Like, how do you go about doing sales? Like, are you doing sales yourself? Because it's out there. Like if you're a founder, you have to do the first 10,000 MMR yourself. Other people say you're not good at sales, outsource it. It's those different things out there. What are you doing for sales?
I would say I'm the main driver of
Okay.
sales at this point.
And so you just like emailing people, or you like actually picking the phone up and cold calling people? Like
a lot of it is based off calls. Like,
so how do you get people answer calls? Like me personally, a call comes in from random number, like I'm not answering that crap, Like how do you overcome that? Or I guess the thing is like get a relationship first, and then I'm gonna call you later, I guess.
well, I'm a huge believer in finding common ground. So whenever you reach out to someone, there has to be some sort of reason that connects you two together. So, for example, something that I recently started making a relationship with the U.S. Department of Education, specifically their rural education achievement programs. And it was because I went to an event where I was able to get in touch with Chris Green, who is part of the Washington Department of Commerce office specifically for economic development. He said, like, what I think what you're doing is doing great for, at-risk communities. You should reach out to some. So then I started reaching out to rural school districts and stuff like that. End up talking to and building a relationship with the National Rural Education Association, which has a footprint across 42 of the 50 states. And from there, then was able to get in touch with the U.S. Department of Education. And so I didn't know any of these people, but there was this common interest in making a positive impact for at-risk youth. And it just, again, when there's a common goal, when there's goals that are shared, it's quite powerful and moving the needle forward.
So let's say you play a lottery tonight and you hit the $100 million lottery, right? What's the one person you're gonna hire to take this thing off your plate? Like you do it right now, you're pretty good at it, but like if you had the money, you would without a doubt, pay someone to do this for you to get off your plate.
So who specifically?
Yeah, it was a position like social media, marketing, sales.
I mean,
whatever the case may be.
I mean, if they were literally sales and marketing professional of some kind, if someone had a great expertise in the educational landscape, that'd be very, very valuable. A lot of something I only learned recently, a lot of successful education technologies that are out there are because of founders who spent a decade plus in education, built the network already in education with trusted relationships, and then began their startup.
And so you see you have like 8 people working for you, right? In some kind of capacity. Or these are like broken down designers, developers, like how are they broken down?
Yeah, so we have there's one crazy founder. And then there is my first partner in crime, the original partner in crime, Zach Bouchard. He's our COO. He's basically the guy that he takes care of.
So is he CEO or co-founder?
I would say FutureGen began as a solo founder and then built a founding team.
So why CEO versus co-founder? What was your reasoning deciding that? And of course, there's no wrong answer. I just want to know.
Yeah, I think it was because everybody else is on the team. They're all moonlighting it, so they're not, they're still doing their.
So this guy's moonlighting too, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he was the first one that, like,
and what kind of feedback have you got? A lot of people like, I'll never invest you in a team, in a solo founder team. What's been your take on that? And well, I guess feedback from investors. You say, no, I'm the only founder. Have they said like, you need a tech co-founder, you need a co-founder, or they've been like, okay, you're a great guy, and like you're the overachiever founder. I'm going to invest in you. What's been your take on that? What's been your feedback so far?
Well, I think there was a lot of, initially I used to say, oh, we are a group of co-founders. But if you go greater than 3 co-founders, I would say that creates red flags.
That's big red flag.
Yeah, and a lot of then suddenly have a lot of, you're on the defense when making relationships with investors, because that seems like there's so many people that are involved. To like, who are the real true?
It's almost like you can't even make a decision on who the founding team is, right?
Exactly. So typically, I will say that I'm a solo founder that built a founding team, and they'll ask questions.
I like that phrasing. I like that phrasing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we built a pretty badass team. Like, I mean, again, award-winning designer. Those who other management consultants that have done implementations of again statewide solutions for human potential, PhD educated fellows that are doing the academic educational research that's applied in the product. And then our software team, oh my God. Our CTO, he's I think he's done like 5 separate startups, 2 of them successful exits.
How do you find your software development team? I think it disconnect, this is my opinion, like you have like these new developers or mid-level developers trying to find jobs. They can't find it, they don't have no experience. You have non-tech founders trying to find developers and they're like they're missing each other, right? So how did you find your development team?
That's actually a really interesting story because we had an initial engineer that was a part of us since the get-go. And I don't have a technical background, so I'm like I did not know in terms of like how do you measure success with someone like that. But so then I started this journey but I knew he needed some guidance, so I started off with this journey of like, okay, what does a startup CTO look like? And so I actually had a series of learning points on how to find such candidates. And initially, I used to just reach out to people that I thought looked professional. We were both Eagle Scouts or something like that. But I would say after like the 6th, 7th attempt and rounds in terms of like reaching out to others, the secret sauce was actually the following, which was, hey, we're looking for CTO or software developers that are interested in being a part of us at the early stages of MVP and iteration and beyond, and have the capabilities of leading teams. And so I actually made a LinkedIn's job post. I also posted on Angel's List, and next thing you know, what I initially thought was going to be honestly a step in the wrong direction, we actually started getting these amazing candidates. And I started having a series of interviews with all of them. And so I think we literally got like within 48 hours, we had like 80 people that applied for the position.
And are you paying this person?
No. And these were all people that I said, hey, this is purely
you're upfront, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to hide anything like that. And so from those 80, we narrowed down to 30. From those 30, we narrowed down to 4. And then we found our one.
Nice.
And then he himself was able to, because there's a couple of good things I think you got to look into as CTO too. So an advantage for us was that he also, the 2 other software engineers he brought on board with him, they have a history of building together. And so I think that speaks a lot about his character, that that others also believe in him and his ability for judgment and character and envisioning what the next best big thing could be.
And when you fundraise, I'm guessing you can use the money to hire more people.
Yeah. So with this next round, it'd be accelerating the product development. So bringing some of these engineers full time under house. And depending on it could be also bringing in other members of the team on board too.
Do you have like a prior, next 2 developers, number 3 sales, number 4 marketing? Have you got that planned out?
Yeah. So again, depending on the raise, so we have like 2 benchmarks or 3 benchmarks. If we hit a 250K raise versus a 500K raise versus like, let's say a 2 million raise, each of them have different objectives to go ahead and meet the next milestone. So like, for example, I don't know if that's too much detail.
No, it's not.
Like, for example, for the first 250K is, okay, rapid iteration of the MVP. We have people that are going to be able to give feedback. Let's go ahead and start, again, continuing to augment a product that people love. So that's why you bring in the software engineers in full time, because we have the loop with students now to get active feedback on our platform. And then also product market fit. And then also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and then honestly, a little bit of a compensation to help me pay my bills too.
That would be nice, right?
Yeah,
that'd be nice. So I'm answer this. This one I always have a challenge with. Some people ask me like, "How much you're raising?" Right? Because on one hand, if I go bare bones, I have one amount of money, right? But I won't go all out. Everything I want, everything I need, to scale fast is a different amount. So how do you ask the question? Like, you like average of 2, or like of course, I guess you have to based on the investor you're talking to too, I guess, right? How do you like answer a question like, because of course you say some people say, I'm gonna raise 250. You can't do shit with that. Get the hell out of here, right? You waste my time. But then you say, I want to raise 3 million. That's unrealistic, right? What are you doing, right? So how do you
Yeah.
answer that question personally?
So again, I would say if the question is like, how do you determine the amount?
Mhm.
Is again, the point of a round is to get you the next steps.
So it should be based on milestones.
Yeah, it has to be based on milestones. You have to have clear objectives in order to complete. So for example, that he's allowed to us to go for a year plus and be able to get rapid feedback and for us to rapidly accelerate on our product. But it's not going to do too much more than that. Aside from, now if I was able to, fully dedicate everything, then maybe again, an increase in sales, or also having a better understanding of the loop. Versus a 500K, which is like, oh, we can actually maybe have mentorship and guidance and how to properly create a sales cycle for a acceleration of product market fit.
There's one for you. How many pitch decks have you done?
More than fingers I have. So like, for example, it seems so silly to me, but we just started working with a potential marketing mentor because our team actually, our weakest point is probably sales and marketing. And we have all this, technical and ability in terms of application, but when it comes to sales and marketing, I would say that's something that is an Achilles heel for us. And so this person's like, what's your sales deck look like? And I'm like, huh.
Yeah. I had that like nightball moment maybe like 6 months ago. Like, yeah, my sales deck. Oh shit, you're right. I need a sales deck. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it seems like such like a duh.
Like
you should have one.
Like, how did I have this already? Like, you just want to kick yourself in the butt. Like, what's wrong with me, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was thinking, so that was like the latest iteration that we had.
Yeah.
So we have a series of iterations on our sales pitch deck. So yeah, it's funny. It's like
it's crazy, yeah. And then like you'll do a pitch deck and you practice it, and then you like it like goes to cobwebs. And, oh shit, let me bring it back. You're like, why is it slide in here, right? What did I think of, right? It's a slide in here, right?
Yeah.
And then like in a pitch deck, I compare like resumes. Like if you give your resume to 25 people, you have 25 opinions. Give your deck to 25 people, you have 25 different opinions. And the matter is like all of them don't matter, unless only one that matters is the one who gives the money, right?
There's a special kind of weight to those who are paying up.
Exactly. So what's some so someone's a new entrepreneur. Let me make for you like this. Someone wakes up today and like the light bulb goes off. I have this great idea. It's gonna save. Let's say suppose someone has an idea to take their phone. Actually, I'll tell this quick story. So I used to judge these TAF hackathons, right? TAF is like this school. You know what TAF is, right?
Yeah.
So I judged a hackathon one time. These 3 8th grade had an idea where you would take your cell phone and charge it with the electricity in your body, right?
Interesting.
So let's suppose someone has an idea today and they came to you. All they have the idea. My idea is like charge phones on my body, electricity. What do you tell them to do?
I think it would depend on, like, let's say they were 8th graders.
Okay, they're like regular people. I'll call 8th grade regular people. Like they're like they're more advanced. They're like like
let's say like a young professional.
Yeah, a young professional. Yeah.
Okay, because again, I would give different advice. I'd be like, oh man, you have all this spirit already. There are these amazing programs. Reach out. There's a lot of again, is discoverability is a big challenge for I would say the next generation.
That's a good point.
Of entrepreneurs and problem solvers. But if I were going to go again and advise, like, let's say I met someone my age that was considering it, I think I would kind of, I know I would definitely approach it differently than I'm doing now. So my advice to a mirror image of myself that is considering the first steps, I would actually tell them, remember, every action you do, you should consider it an accelerant to what you figured out. So you know how people will go to investors, and you should always go to investors because you figure something out and money is an accelerator. It's gas for you to put your foot on the metal and you just to continue to do everything that's right. Well, the same truth is actually with your time. So I would advise the mirror image of Eddie, like, hey, if you're going to go full time into this, make sure you have enough insight where you are going to, that time that you're now dedicating to it accelerates what you're doing. If you haven't quite figured out, like really the next guiding steps, it's not taboo for a founder to also have a job alongside it. And so time is an accelerator as well. So, I can't take back what I've done. I don't think I would have gone as far as I've gone today without putting full-time effort into what I'm doing and giving it my 1000%. But I think it would have been also that again, everything you do should be considered an accelerator. So if you really think you have flushed out your idea enough where full-time effort is going to get you to the next stages, then do it. If not, then it's okay to, again, ideate to a point where like this, I found out enough, time to hit the gas.
Here's another question for you. Like now here in Seattle, there's a lot of like startup meetings, a lot of tech meetings, right? And of course they're mostly white middle-aged people, right?
Yeah.
So and then you have like people like less fortunate demographic background. They just have great ideas, right? So is it the responsibility of people doing the startup meetings to reach out to this other demographic? Hey, I'm doing this startup meeting. If you want you here, come here. Make it more accessible. Or is it responsibility of the people in the less demographic, like less unfortunate areas, like find these meetings and find these opportunities? Or is it a combination of both? Hopefully that question makes sense.
I think it's a combination of both. And I think it's something that we actually iterate kind of in tangent with our product, which is, are you like, let's say again, those community organizers that are trying to build programs and opportunities for first-time entrepreneurs, let's say. Something that I think is missed by a lot of problem solvers is that, are you building a solution that is contextually understood by the target demographic you're trying to serve? And so, for example, as a first-time founder, you may not know you should be going to the town center or like community programs that are out there to learn about these opportunities. You would not know that because you don't know. But, a lot of people may learn about these opportunities by Googling or finding like an investor Slack group or a startup Slack group or, something of the sort where they can contextually understand the messages that are trying to be presented. So I think that is something that's missed in a lot of early product solutions that problem solvers do just as a whole conceptually, where they're building something that they realize is a problem, but is not, again, receptive to the target audience they're trying to support.
Eddie, who are your mentor or your mentors?
I've been fortunate enough to have many mentors across my time. And it's interesting how these individuals become mentors, not because you're like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. I like to formalize.
It always happens naturally, right?
Yeah, it's
always happened naturally.
Exactly. And I've had a number of people that made such an impact on my life that I don't know where I would be today without them.
So next question, to me, this is an even more important question. Who are you mentoring?
Today, I'm actually mentoring a few people. The most people I do mentor directly now, I actually met them through, I meet them through a program I made actually. So back in college, I founded a club called the Davis Financial Analyst Society. It's supposed to help students pursue entry-level opportunities in finance. And so as a part of the initiative, I built career exploration programs and something I'm very proud of, a mentorship program that's there.
So Eddie, of course, I'm sure this will never happen, knock on this plastic table, it won't. But what would happen if someone, when you play before, you have to do for them, you to let them go, right? Like what red line have to cross? Like they have to lie to you, not maybe miss a measurement for 90 days in a row. What would it take for someone like, hey, Jason, this ain't working out, it's time for us to part ways? So
I unfortunately had to experience that about 2-3 months ago.
And people don't realize, like people always say, like especially HR experts, hire slow, fire fast. no one fires fast, right? No one wants to be a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Like it always like I joke around, don't fire Eddie because it's his birthday. Don't fire Eddie because it's Christmas time. Like the thing is
Yeah.
like by the time you want to fire like Jason, everyone knows Jason should go, right? And so the faster you do
Yeah.
it, the best you can both move in lives. So how did you approach that?
So I would say this is something that I had to learn in the sense that great strength that I have, but at times I had to learn to remove that strength. Is I see myself as an includer. I find ways to have anybody that wants to support add value to whatever is the challenge, the obstacle, or that's being faced. And so I'm not going to say any names, but we had one of our original founding team members. Um, they, I would say they weren't as in it as everybody else was demonstrating across the team. And you could see shifts of priorities on, what they wanted to do in their, with their weekly commitments versus what the team held as a standard for their weekly commitments. And so the way that our team handled it was essentially warnings. You don't just say like, oh, I'm sorry, it just wasn't working out, and just like chop it and go. That's not how.
And your team is like completely remote, right?
Yeah. We do sometimes quarterly in person type of events, but yeah, for the most part we're remote. So with this individual, it was we gave like it has some discussions like, hey, you know what, this is what we're noticing. Again, giving that feedback in terms of what we're observing, and at some point had to make that painful decision of removing, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's not
I
easy.
did not like
People are like people say I'm the master of firing. Whenever someone says I'm an expert of firing, expert of hiring, I'm like, you're a fucking liar. But no one's expert of hiring or firing. It's like it's both things are tough.
Yeah.
So this next scenario, let's put you're not hiring, right? You're not hiring. You have no plan of hiring anyone, right?
I think we have a strong team where we're at. Yes.
So what would someone have to do? Like they listen to this video or this podcast, like, man, I'm really down with Eddie's team. I want to join his team. Like, I know it's a startup. What would this person have to do to convince you to bring them on?
That would somehow probably touch my includer heart. Again, I'll specifically say we are not hiring or anything right now. There's, I would say though, if there was an interest in providing some sort of level of guidance in sales and marketing, that is something that our team is beginning to spread our wings in a bit more. And we're not afraid to admit like, hey, we have a lot of passion and drive, but we understand that guidance go a long way. So if someone reached out and they said that they had a specific key love and tying to what do you want to do in the future, and yeah, no, I would be
Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
But one thing, like, you never know where your next talent's going to come from, right? You never know, like, how your team's going to grow or not grow, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true.
And so how do you have what's it called, like, do you have an equity plan already? Like, how you like give an equity, like your first few employees, all that kind of stuff? Of course, don't give them the details and everything, but
with everybody on the team, we have discussed compensation packages, equity plans, as we as a company grow and succeed. Is definitely is a shared experience.
Yes. So next, we were both in WTIA. I think it's a thing called Washington Technical Institute Association, I think.
Yes, that's it.
Now, how did you find out about that?
It was actually one of the earliest organizations I learned when I first came to Washington. So again, I came in February of last year, and I think I spoke to, again, Nick Hughes, Amelia, and they said, hey, you should talk to those WTIA people. And I think the first person I talked to was with Nick. I'm trying to remember his last name.
Ellingson.
Yeah,
Ellingson,
that's the guy. And he explained more about his organization. I'm like, wow, that sounds really cool. And so that's how I learned about it in the first place.
And how did you meet Nick Hughes?
I literally just Googled like startup events in my area in Seattle, and Founders Live popped up, and there was going to be a launch.
Have you pitched there yet?
I have.
Okay.
I have. I
What-
did it with a different idea.
Oh wow, yeah. What month did you pitch here in Seattle?
I
Or
did.
the one here in Seattle?
You know what's funny? I think we actually pitched together.
Did we? Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
pitched
Yeah.
on downtown Seattle.
Spaces,
some
the
stuff.
room.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be on the deck, whatever. We had to bring it inside because they forgot the tech stuff.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful venue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm a quick plug for myself. So I'm actually gonna guest host Founders Live Seattle in June. We're doing like a military edition, be at the Unit Club in Tacoma. So I'll send out more information about that pretty soon. And that's one thing about it. So you always got to find like avenues to put yourself out there, right? You know, like make yourself known. Like I love your phrase now, building in public.
Yeah, building in public. Don't be fearless.
Yeah.
Be fearless, because what you're doing is honestly it would help so many people, especially if they knew about it.
Exactly. So moving on, how big do you see your company getting, right? You want to be like the number one ed tech company in the United States? Do you see like expanding globally? Like,
okay. You want to know about my world domination
yes,
plans?
yes,
Did I
world
really
domination
say
plan.
my
Say it
world
right now
domination
on the
plans?
record.
I'll tell you this. I've had a wonderful opportunity to speak with some founding engineers at LinkedIn, and they said, Eddie, you guys are not future gen. You guys are the future LinkedIn killers. And so, we really think, so here's our biggest thread of thought that is inspiring all the innovations happening with us. We truly believe if we can help people navigate the question, what do you want to do in the future? Then why can we not help the other half of the equation with the employers? What if we can help companies build culturally fit teams and with data, essentially, with, again, like the success metrics of those who are able to navigate. And so with that thought, I think it's, again, the first brick we have to solve is how to best help navigate those through what they want to do in the future in a way that makes it an adventure, a journey, an experience that gets them excited, and not this overburdensome expectation that's given on them and is expected of them. But after going through that, then I think the next opportunity is really with being able to build these culturally teams across companies. And this is an experience I had in management consulting where unfortunately companies go through a cultural change when they meet certain stages of growth and also stages of life. And so to really keep that company culture there and present and live and bursting and just always embering and ready to spark again, you have to be able to build a culture that everybody is 100% for. So it's in terms of footprint and all that, I mean, I think we can go from the earliest of ages up into even retirement, and they're trying to figure out what to do after their careers. This is not just a US problem. There are so many people that are trying to go to the US and also people that are trying to exit the US. And so it's there's a team of 8, but in terms of footprint, we imagine ourselves being far larger and having a global scaled impact.
Who are your competitors? Who else is like kind of sort of doing what you're doing right now?
I would say there's very specific niches in terms of trying to solve the problem. So in terms of like today's iteration, I think Gladeo is a great platform that is also trying to tackle the same problem area. I think ADP List is another platform that's trying to do like mentorship. There's iMentor, which is also a great platform. Again, we're all lovers of this problem space. But the way that we apply it, it's I think a little different. I think it's unfortunate that a lot of solutions that exist around what do you want to do in the future are, I think, fragmented instead of looking at a holistic picture. And I would like to think that our competitive advantage, especially long term, is that we are looking at a holistic picture, not just only a specific niche. We're going to own a niche, but then expand vertically and horizontally as best seems fit.
Eddie, how does future gen fail? What causes you to fail?
Me. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, it's a lot of the. Yeah, give us a sec.
Damn honest answer.
Yeah, give us a sec. You know what I mean by that is my team. I think we have such a great balance of personalities on the team. It's very easy to tell that I'm the dreamer of my team. I'm the guy who's envisioning what a
So
better.
people on your team have to keep you grounded, so to speak.
Yeah, and unfortunately, again, everybody respects me so much that they accept that, you know, whatever decision I make is what we're going to go with. Whether I have majority shares or not, like I think they do that. But it's I would say as great as an advantage as there is to have one person that is really kind of doing the guiding, you know, next best steps for an organization. If you start doing steps in the wrong direction, that's also it's a two-sided double-edged sword, essentially. And so I would say the times that our team has gone into jeopardy and had to do course correction, luckily we have been able to do course correction, is when potentially I've gone maybe narrow-sided, or maybe don't look at the whole picture, not a whole thing, or at a whole landscape side. And so, excuse me. So I would say that's something that, again, this year, my biggest priority is applying focus. And I got to say, focus got us from 0 to potentially over half a dozen pilot program users and discussing contract pricing. That's what the power of focus did. And I would say my lack of focus last year, I would say kind of it helped us with a lot of fast learning, but at the same time, I think it potentially hurt us.
So follow-up question, of course, is what causes you to meet your global domination plans? What makes you succeed in everything you want to do?
I think there's not just one thing. I think there's always there's a compass that I think entrepreneurs kind of innately are aware of, but maybe don't always necessarily act on. And it's something that I would say it is so crucial, because if you don't have this honest reflection on are you keeping in pace or direction of this compass, then that is why your company will fail. So like, for example, I bet you're aware of this. Over a course of a year, I have met so many founders that I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this thing. And they're no longer there. And you can often look at the fact of like, you know, what core principles did they no longer pursue, or how did they drop? How did they fail? How did they, you know, not meet the next steps? And so it's interesting that even though, you know, we have not to date have closed on you know, on an investor or something like that, it's crazy that only one person that had one crazy idea, had such a powerful passion, was able to build a network of individuals that became a team, and have all these capabilities, and come together in a way that, you know what, we know it's tough and we're going to weather the storm, but at the same time, it's not because the promise of the green fields on the other side, it's that, and because we really, really do believe in you.
Yeah, I know the popular saying is fail fast, but I think there's also something to be said of staying the course, right?
Yeah.
But they're being resilient, not getting knocked down, because fail fast, what it means, go to startup weekend and do a thing for 96 hours and always reading up customers. I think it's something to be said, like those staying the course. Of course, you probably don't want to do it for 10 years, that's probably like too much, but I think there's a balance between like fail fast and like staying the course, getting kicked all the time.
You know, as counterintuitive may sound, I think discipline is so important as a startup. And you know, we're supposed to be free going and, you know, free floating, but I think discipline in terms of like, hey, measuring what success is and admit when it's actually a failure and move on from there.
So Eddie, so you're talking about your startup. Do you have any startup ideas?
Any new?
Yeah, new startup ideas.
Well, I mean, I would say I'm a very observant person overall. And so there are a number of things I would say I have like, oh, that'd be cool. I bet that'd be something like that's a lot more doable. Like, but is it my calling? Is it the impact I wish to have
Yeah.
in the world around me? Not necessarily. But if you want to hear some crazy fun ideas, I don't mind.
Yeah, just one crazy idea.
Okay. So here's my personal favorite. So I think people are greatly spirited in the holidays, but don't necessarily always want to own and deck out their homes for Christmas or an Easter or a birthday or for a wedding, like and own everything. So this idea involves what if you were able to go all out for the holidays and decorate your home, but you don't have to own the decorations.
So like a rent a decoration thing?
Kinda. So think of it as like, hey, we give you like a care package of decking out your house, like let's say for Christmas. Here is like your here's everything from the elves to the candy canes to the inflatable floats that you can put in Christmas lights and everything. And if you want to keep it great, you have purchased it. If you don't, then you can return it to us. And for the next year, we can go ahead and rotate out across like another care set or care package for another family.
Okay. So you come to remote. Is everyone in the Seattle area or across the United States or across the world?
So we have 2 in Seattle, another 2 in California, 3 in Las Vegas, and another 1 in Washington, D.C.
So I'm a big believer. People disagree with me, like remote work's not for everyone, right? It's just not right. A lot of people, they need they have to come to the office. They need like guidance. They need to be told 1, 2, 3. What's your test or plan? Or what if it be like make sure people hired actually can do remote work?
I would say everyone can have a preference, but I think there is like a setting in the times. So for me personally, I do love working in person. I do love it. I feel like there's a sense of collaboration that comes up when it's more than just voice, audio, language that can be conversed. I think there's body language. I think there's like a flow. But at the same time, how are you going to be competitive? And so I do think that remote work is definitely here to stay and a way to go. I, again, future wise, do plan on having, let's say, monthly/quarterly like meetups of some kind across the company that is in person. But in terms of getting the work done, I don't think you necessarily have to always be together to make that done.
I agree. So there's a company out of San Francisco called Close.com. There's like a sales company for startups. I actually use them. And they're 100% remote, always have 100% remote. They have like people from like India, California, Brazil. What's like cool is like once a year, the owner, Stella FD, he brings all together for a week, right? Like they went to Ireland, Brazil, San Antonio. Each year they go to a different place. I think they have like 95 employees right now. I think they went to Dublin, Ireland last year. So every 1 week, it's not even work related. Just go there and hang out, right, for 1 week together. No work related, nothing like that. Just go for Dublin or wherever for 1 week and just hang out, right? And that's one thing I want to do, right? Have totally remote, but once a week, we like go somewhere cool and just hang out, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really cool. And I think it's for a certain I think
because it's tough to team build when you're like a remote team.
Yeah, and I would say like our team does feel a certain knitness, but a lot of it actually happened when we're in person. I remember the first time our team met in person for the first time. That was a magical moment. I was like, oh my God.
So did y'all say this like, dude, I didn't know you were 6'6"?
Yeah, like yeah, it's true. And then that's when you can have like your tiki night bars and stuff like that. It's like, and then you share stories that they're not just work related. And then as an opportunity to learn more about each other.
And so I guess you like Slack a lot.
I would say Slack is probably our favorite preferred method. But
and like, how does your team work? Like, you have like meetings over Zoom like once a week, or like does like one person does this? Well, it's called asynchronous. I can't say the word. Like, know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Or you're running the company like that, where if everyone does their own thing and like you're checking with Eddie once in a while, or like is like, or you have like deadlines and meetings once a week, more structured.
So with us, we meet daily.
Okay.
So we meet Monday through Friday, and it's set up as a check-in.
Mhm.
So it's an opportunity for anybody to go ahead and voice challenges or have questions and have them answered or get guidance, and also give an update on progress since last check-in.
And you say you have something in DC. So you're in Seattle. Is the company run off Pacific time or a different time zone? How does that work?
Pacific time.
Okay. So if you're in DC, it sucks to be you then, right?
So our oh yeah, our David would definitely drink to that. So
At least he's not in Thailand.
oh my gosh, I remember like the most confusing time zones I've had to work with is with India in particular because of the half an hour mark.
Yeah.
I think it was like, oh my god, is it half an hour ahead? Is it half an hour
Yeah,
behind?
Afghanistan's the same way. Afghanistan's like
Oh,
half
really?
hour off. Yeah, it was like totally screwed you up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Afghanistan half hour thing too. Yeah.
I get confused. But yeah, so he, on the other hand, I would say he has a special arrangement with us where, again, he is leading our academic education and research arm. He's our chief science officer. So a lot of his work is independent. So he and I keep in close tabs, and every once in a while, I'm like, hey, there's going to be some big announcements. We need to come in. So I would say he lays off, lays our affairs, but he and I, we talk, if not every day, at least every other day.
So this is probably my head. This is probably early for you, but do you have a plan, or have you thought about doing like public relations?
Nah, I have other problems.
Yeah, that's way too early, right? Yeah. It may sound like maybe come to like start us to waste money on public relations, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it right, our team has been published before on newspapers and stuff like that, and it wasn't paid PR or anything like that. You know, it's again, we've been described as an innovative technology solution in Monterey County. You know, we've been so it's you don't have to do like
yeah, you don't have to get this big famous PR company and like you don't have to do a Super Bowl ad, nothing like that.
Yeah, I'd rather invest that in something different.
I mean, perfect story is like Coinbase did a Super Bowl ad like last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then 4 months later, they laid off like 20% of the company off. Like, dude, are you fucking kidding me, right?
Yeah, a lot happened in crypto.
Yeah, exactly. That was a weird story. So Eddie, is there anything I have not asked you yet that I should have asked you?
Well, you already know my favorite superhero. You already know where to get the best enchiladas around. Unfortunately, I'm not the one. You know, I think there's maybe one thing I like to talk about. And that's who is Gen Z. If you don't mind if I speak a little bit about that, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion on that. So if I can, this is not a shameless plug. It's more like a strong opinionated piece that I have.
Yeah.
So I often get the question, like, who is Gen Z? And in the academic realm and in actual practice, I think is very different. So again, I've done a lot of academic research. I've been a part of a number of associations that, you know, they do follow best practices in terms of measuring success, etc., and defining demographics. But in my opinion, who is Gen Z? Gen Z is more than just the people that are born between 1997 to 2007. These people are in the classroom, and you shouldn't necessarily think of them as, you know, these are migrant students, or these are, you know, high achieving students, or these people come from low income families, or these people are middle class, or these people go to private schools and stuff like that. I really think should we think about in the context of high schoolers. Gen Z high schoolers today, they're honor students. They are athletes. They are cheerleaders. They are content creators. They are digital natives. They have a strong sense of ownership and imagining and responsibility in terms of what the future can be like. They have a strong liking towards the environment. They are self-actualized in terms of like, I wish my work does purpose. And so a lot of current statistics that I think are set in place that define demographics, especially for Gen Z, I think they need to be a little bit more reimagined, because there's a reason why we're seeing success, and asking students today, instead of asking them, what do you think about how great is your reading comprehension? That's just so dull. It's not a question that excites and gets those next generation engaged, but being able to show them how their interests are applied in terms of career and educational possibilities, I think is so important and makes things so much more relevant. So again, I think Gen Z is more than just a statistic. They are their own culture. They will ask you questions. They will ask why rules are the way they are set. So I think there's a lot more qualitative than just looking at it just in terms of, oh, they are these statistics.
Eddie, thanks for that. Can you quickly cover like some myths of Gen Z? Like I may be wrong, but what didn't say Gen Z is like the Tide Pod generation, eat the Tide Pod, like what are some myths about Gen Z that like totally off the wall and like totally misconstrued?
I personally don't think Gen Z is unmotivated. I don't think that they're lazy. I do think that unfortunately they have a little bit of they're one of the most aware generations of what's going on around them.
I mean, because they grew up with like an internet from day one, right? Like they know how to do tech like no one's business, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, I show people how to connect on LinkedIn using a QR code, and they think I'm the CTO.
I know, right? Yeah, I know exactly, right? Yeah. Like so I gotta tell the story.
Go for it.
So I got out of the Army. My second job in the Army, I was an HR for a local college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're like 8 people working for me. I'm there, and I know, like, I'm observing, so I know people. I know people like they're typing stuff on the computer, they're printing it out, making pen ink changes. This is like, man, like I say 2017, right? So pretty recently, right? So the typing stuff on the computer, print it out, someone's reading it, they make pen ink changes. They take the paper and read off the paper, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are y'all doing, right? This is how we make a record. Like, I saw them on Google Drive, like how you can make stuff like on the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they literally said, how long this has been out? This is fantastic. Like since 2000, right? And they thought I was like a CTO, right? So everyone's like telling me to tech stuff. Like, dude, like, no, I don't know how to do this, right? And it's just amazing, like people like they're in their routine, right? They do the same thing over and over again. They don't realize the possibility of like stuff being better, right?
Yeah, it's again, it's I want everybody to know I'm not the CTO of my company. I can show you how to connect on QR codes on LinkedIn though.
I'm pretty sure like I like to say like I'm the most not tech person, like I know how to set up AWS. I know like front end back end is, right. I can speak a language, right? But am I gonna get down and code something? Because like first of all, it'll probably take me 20 years to code one line of code, right? But yeah, it's amazing the stuff you learn.
It really is. I think when you're able to own your superpower, it's quite powerful. However, you're dangerous in the greatest of ways. So like, for example, your knowledge of HR, I bet goes way beyond if I were to start like right now. And it's I think people should be shameless of what makes them uniquely them, because again, there's only one you, and once you own that superpower that makes you uniquely yourself, no one can catch up to you.
That's a great point. Everyone has a superpower.
Yeah.
So Eddie, What's some of pet peeves you have?
Pet peeves and
Anything personal, professional, like for example, me, one of my pet peeves is crazy.
Mhm.
Like, suppose my clothes are dirty. Okay, if I throw them in the laundry basket, fall off, I don't care. If I have something clean, like supposed to have something right at the laundry, a lot of the washing machine dryer, fall the floor, I go batshit crazy. Like, I cannot. That's one of my pet peeves, right? I cannot stand clean stuff on the floor.
I guess a random pet peeve I have is I appreciate it when people put the toilet seat down.
Do you?
I do. I
Okay.
do. It's it's kind of funny. My girlfriend does put the seat down, but she only started noticing that after meeting me. I know it's like a random view,
Yeah.
but it's I don't know. It's just like, yeah. Again,
So here's some total random.
pretty
So
random, yeah.
this is one good thing about remote work that people don't realize. I don't think, like, suppose you have 8 people, right? You know, and suppose you came to the same office, right?
Mm-hmm.
You different personalities, different whatever. One person gonna do something that kind of annoys everyone else, right? It might be something that's like maybe they slurp their coffee, or like they talk too loud, or they type too loud. But in your office together, people do things that annoy you, right? And it drives you batshit crazy. Right? If you're remote, you don't hear that stuff, right? I know that's kind of random, kind of weird and that stuff, but
Yeah, I mean, again, there are some things I love about working from home. Like, for example, I love that I don't have to technically commute.
oh yeah.
Um,
I'm still waiting for the Star technology to come. Beam me to downtown Seattle. That would fix everything, right?
oh my gosh, yeah, that would be a dream too.
And so, like, I'm going off space here. Like, so, like, we went to the moon in 1969.
Yeah,
Why in the fuck we're not on Mars already, right? Like, to me, it makes no sense, right? Like, 50 years, you would think. So we went from like no moon program in 1960 to the moon in 1969. It's like, and I read this. I saw this news article or news series. They were saying, like, they theorized, like, the reason we're on the moon now, on Mars now, because like in '73, that the Apollo 13 almost like killed everyone. So Nixon killed the space program, went to the space shuttle, and people realized, like, the moon is the one type of rocket. And then Elon Musk said, yeah, space shuttle is another space rocket, right?
yeah.
And so you actually like degrade our capability, and now people are trying to catch up.
I think it's a big reason why a lot of innovation like that occurs is because there is how better to define competition.
That's a great point.
And so, I mean, at that time, I love history. I think there's a lot of truth to the saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the author who wrote that. Anyways, he's there's that space race time, like 1968 to 1970.
Yeah.
There's so
The
much,
Cold War, Sputnik first, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, there was civil rights that were going on. There was so much stuff that was going on right there back then, and the space race is just one of them. And so I think because of the competition that was going on, kind of forced that. And now today there is new competition with space development, exploration capabilities. It's amazing. I remember I was, fanboying over Elon Musk recently, and I was reading up on his like latest rocket. I think they want to launch like a rocket that goes straight into space. I know it's like 5,000 tons.
Yeah.
5,000 tons.
That's insane. One thing one of my bucket list, I want to go to the SpaceX launch, and like I think it's the Brownsville. I want to see an actual SpaceX launch.
Oh, really? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's my bucket list thing. I see the SpaceX launch.
If you get the details, let me know.
Yeah. Man, have you heard of this app? Let me pull it up. It's called Next Space Flight.
No, what's that about?
It shows you every space flight across the world. China, Russia. It'll show you like next space flight from China, this local payload is, all the details.
I can't say I have.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, if you also find out how to see the aurora, let me know too. Again, it seems like we both admire the stars.
Yeah, definitely. So Eddie, can you share your social media with some people reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I'm most active on LinkedIn. So Eddie Mazariegos at Future, essentially. You can also probably find me if you want through our website, which is futuregen xyz.com, we technically do have a Instagram, but I would say we probably have more visibility on LinkedIn. But yeah, we're beginning to expand that again in theme of building in public. We're beginning to put ourselves out there a bit more.
So you're like you're trying to reach out to high school students. So let me backtrack. Do you have a TikTok account?
No.
I would think you need one because like you're trying to reach out to high school students, all of them are TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like that's the station you should be in.
It's definitely something that I would say our team wants to own capabilities in with. And I definitely would say that we have an immense, again, I feel like it's something that is low-hanging fruit that we could do.
Yeah.
It's just,
I definitely think you're killing on there, right? The stuff you're doing, like short stories and stuff.
I mean, we're all about transparency, authenticity, owning who you are, like knowing your interests, knowing your future, how to make an impact. I mean, like I do feel like we could have quite a bit of success that's there. It's just something new.
Yeah. So would you describe yourself as an introvert or extrovert or a combination?
If I had to go, red pill or blue pill, I think I'm someone that is okay with being alone, but when I have a reason to speak, I will be an advocate to the end.
Yeah.
And that will get me outside.
Yeah.
That will get me pushing. That will get me reaching, finding a limit.
This is me, like it's a kind of weird across strings. Like suppose like I love like being around people, like going to networking events, going to like I don't know, of course not clubs anymore, like going to Starbucks, whatever, being around people. But I don't have to talk here, right? I'm more than happy like sitting down at the table by myself and observing people, right? Which is kind of strange, of course,
Well, I think there's an advantage to being an observer. I don't think people often listen enough. And when they don't listen enough, they often, I don't know, how can you really, that's something I think is something that's very important for founders, especially, and problem solvers in general, is your ability to really properly listen. And there's different types of listening. It's not just audio.
Yeah.
I think is also.
Are you really listening?
Yeah.
What's the saying? Most people, I'm gonna get this wrong. Most people listen to respond, but you should listen to understand.
That's the first time I heard that, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond.
I don't get in arguments frequently, but whenever I've noticed I'm in a discussion with someone where there's no pause between to exchange thoughts.
You're like, dude, can you take a breath so I can jump in?
Yeah, I especially I will end a conversation on the spot.
Yeah.
If I notice, like, let's say you and I were having a heated discussion, and the moment I stop speaking, you immediately jump on to the next thing, because that means to me that you probably are stuck on a thought without processing the fresh input, and at that point there's no way to collaborate. There's no way to have a shared discussion.
Yeah, my thing too is like, if you talk with someone, we'll say we have an argument with someone, argument, and they start talking way louder than you. To me, like, you won the argument, right? Like, if someone talks louder, they starts talking louder than you to make a point. You've lost, right? I've won, right?
Well, it's who has the best cool. Calm, collective. Again, typically, I think when people get erupted that way, it's because they don't know how to properly communicate. Or again, like you mentioned, I think you've also won the argument. And they will then resort to something that is lesser approach.
So we talked about your parents earlier. What do your parents think about you being an entrepreneur, being a startup community? Because a lot of parents, they're like, what are you doing? Work for, stay a management consultant, get the money, blah, 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 get your benefits, be secure, so to speak. So what do you think about your entrepreneur journey and the big risk you're taking?
I have had my parents on a roller coaster since 18. as I mentioned before, I come from an immigrant family, first generation college student. And so, I was raised in a household that said, study hard, become the next lawyer, doctor, engineer, or something like that. And
It's
so,
like most immigrants don't want that for the kids, like be a doctor,
yeah,
be a whatever the case be.
yeah. And it makes sense because those are a lot of occupations where it's seen as, oh, you were successful if you do that. And so I did, put my head down and studied hard. I got accepted into a medical apprenticeship program at Harvard University before going to college. And so you can imagine mom and dad there.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh my God.
They told all their friends, like posted on Facebook everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have a doctor in the family. And I remember when it was the time to apply for college, I wrote everything for environment or for medical related. And second to last day, before all the personal statements were due, I scratched anything that's medicine related, and rewrote them for environmental sciences. And I did this all.
Did you tell your parents this before you did it?
No, this is in November.
Smart move.
This is in November, during the Thanksgiving break, and so my family's all together, and we didn't have we were getting ourselves in a better spot, so we only had one family desktop, and as a course in the living room in front of everybody, and so I'm writing my personal statements just in the prompt box, and hit submit.
You're a brave guy.
You're a fool that got lucky.
Dude. I gotta give you props. That's bravery right there.
By the luck of God, the paper was read by the right people. And I was able to continue my journey. But yeah, when I was accepted into school, not doing medicine, family was like, what are you doing? What's environmental sciences? And then going to school and then telling them like, oh yeah, I changed my major to finance. They're like,
at least that's money.
So you're going to be the guy in the bank now? You're going to be the
like, make up your mind.
Yeah. And so it's, I think it was my parents for the longest time, even after I graduated and I started like working for corporate America and doing management consulting. Can you imagine trying for like, a American immigrant family to like try to explain that?
Yeah.
It's like, they do well. They travel.
They make lots of money, work hard, long hours, make lots of money.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I would say they've been quite some ride. A lot of decisions I've made, I would say a lot of even my mentors have greatly suggested against it. But I've often have had the greatest growths occur in my life when I reach.
You used to be able to answer this question pretty easily, I think. What advice do you have for someone in high school who parents are pressing them to do one thing, but they're passing something else?
I think I can definitely understand and relate that we don't want to disappoint those that, that we care deeply about. Dads, parents, guardians, role models, you don't want to disappoint people that we look up to. And I would say that I think you'd be quite surprised how much that these people that are in your corner are actually rooting for you, whatever you decide. But we have to have the honest reflection and communicate that, because if we don't communicate, they're going to continue to think that you've always wanted to be that doctor.
So here's one for you, like something that's like really personal. Let's suppose that someone's out there, they're in high school, college, where they could be, and the relationship is not the best for their parents, right? For whatever reason. So how do you recommend that person fix it? Is that kid's responsibility, the parent's responsibility? What would be advice on that?
Well, I think in any relationship there's the two sides, and it's a two-way street. The moment one side does no longer reach, then I think that there is a different approach to it. So, for example, if you're in an unfortunate environment where maybe you're not able to also communicate what your visions are, what your dream is, with a adult figure that you look up to, then I think you're already taking the first initial steps and having the honest reflection of like, hey, is this something that I would make me happy? Is this something that I think gets me, keeps me going? Because I'm telling you right now, Um, if you are ever doing anything that is less than your passion, then you're going to have a little bit of what if in you, and that will eat at you in a specific way that will follow you.
Eddie, two-part question. Number one, what makes you sad? And number two, what makes you happy?
Well, I'm a very optimistic person.
Yes,
So
yes, you are. Yes, you are. There's no doubt about that.
yeah, I mean, I find sadness when I disappoint others, especially those that put a lot of trust in me. And I would say, you know, that I'm not afraid of failure. Failure doesn't make me sad. But in terms of knowing that my failure may have an impact on others, it saddens me when, something I truly believed in and best of thought and capabilities ended up falling short. Now, on the other side, on the flip side of happy, a lot of things can be happy. I mean, I can be happy with, waking up and seeing my dog that's there, and he's just like, oh, hello. Or I'm going to go home after this, and he's going to be like, oh my God, where were you all day? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Let's go walk. Like, there is so many ways. This is a little bit outside of the discussion, but I think it's,
Hey, so I hate to do this. I got to use the bathroom, so I'm gonna let you talk about what you want to talk about, right?
oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and share this
Yeah.
little input. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. So I think something that has to be spoken about is that I think you should be proud. Be proud of what you do. If you're proud of what you do, then you're able to go ahead and I believe that's fuel for you to go ahead and always keep going. And so, if you're great at music, even though people are telling you that's not going to give you the job, or if you love helping others or making people look good through, barber activities or hairstyling, I would say go for it 100%, because you'd be surprised where that leads you. It's, again, if you're proud of what you do, then that encourages your curiosity, that encourages you to explore further, and you become so impassioned in what you do that why would somebody go to anybody else other than you? You are the subject matter expert. You're the one that, they know how to talk to kids and guide them into a better future. So I'll be frank, I am very strategic. I am very, very aware of, let's say, how to maybe get from current state to future state at large organizations. But that's not exactly my passion. My passion is this, helping others figure out what comes next. It's something that I was able to, I've encountered my whole life, and I see so many people struggle through, including, those that are close to me. And so I'm very proud of what we're doing at Future Gen. And with that pursuit and with that hunger, we've been able to go ahead and innovate in a way that is not being done anywhere else. And so if you are great at a sport, if you're at a subject and it makes you happy and proud of it, then own it. That, I think, will help lead you to your superpower, to your drive, and to, honestly, again, it gets you excited for tomorrow. Pursue it. You're not wasting your time when you pursue your passion. I don't care what anyone else tells you. Well, I got to say, if I had just a few more little inputs while Jason's out there, I do want to let you know that if you're ever in need, I too am also in your corner. I support you in whatever you do. And if you were, I guess you're saying, an initial start of trying to figure out what you want to do, or on the cusp of maybe taking next best steps, I would say speak out on it, because you'd be surprised who else is there in your corner. And we can't help you unless you speak on it. Welcome back, Jason.
Thanks. That's the second time I do that. I did it one time before, so I did a podcast, but like, man, I can't hold them. I got to use the bathroom.
It's okay. We're all human.
Yeah. So Eddie, you give a lot of great value, great advice, but can you give us any last minute advice on anything you want to talk about?
Oh, I may have just done that.
We probably did for it.
I mean, if I'm gonna add further on to it, I think something that is quite interesting, and it's something I'm learning right now. And so I wish it was advice that I was able to apply um, to myself in earlier days. It's again, when you're pursuing a passion and an interest, you're never truly wasting your time. And it's very, very easy to get confused with that, with the following, I guess, assumptions. I personally believe that we live in a society that breeds people to live in a society. And success that looks like in today is you go to school, you do great, you go to college, get a job, and that's success. But I tell you that success looks very different to everybody. And please have that honest reflection with yourself, because if you do that and you do that sooner rather than later, you're going to leave a much more fruitful life, happy life, well balanced life, and something that you're proud of.
So and that's a great point. So I actually saw this on TV maybe a couple of days ago. There's a guy named Steve Hartman, Steve that's news, that's these different stories, right? And so he did a story this guy in Tipton, Indiana, a pizza delivery guy. This dude has been delivering pizza for 31 years. Now people are like, what a fucking loser, right? Like, you deliver pizza for 31 years. It's a full-time job, right? Deliver pizza, right? Are you kidding, right? What's wrong with you, right? But like, it was like, no, he gave value. He gave everyone a good experience. A lot of people like, I know about this, like, a lot of people you only see is the pizza delivery guy, right? They just people so lonely, right? And like, he would do stuff like, of course you take tips, right? He never wanted to take a tip because he never occurred change. So people talk about this, like, he was like, off 50 cents, he would drive 2 miles to the convenience store to bring the exact change back before he get tipped. And so this to me, I have no idea how many people in Indiana, but this town pitched in our bottom a brand new 2023 Chevy Malibu, right?
Interesting.
And you think like those pizza delivery driver, like how do you add value? But he like distance community, right? As pizza delivery driver. So if you can add value as a pizza delivery driver, what do you think you can do, right? But you can add value in different ways.
Yeah, there's countless ways to add value to the community. It's and you'd be surprised. Again, there's so many different ways to also actualize that value. Like, for example, I'm trying to remember this gentleman's name, but he's a barber, and I really think cutting hair is an art.
You're talking about Vic Blends?
I think so.
He has like white guy, a bunch of tattoos.
Different guy.
Huh?
I'm thinking of a different guy.
Okay, this guy from like Vic Blends, the white guy, a bunch of tattoos. He'll walk with something like, can I bless you with a haircut today? You gotta like ask him their life story and stuff.
It's very possible. I do think is a different gentleman I'm thinking of, but I bet they have some similarities. I bet these are two people that are pursuing their passion and love for cutting hair and making people look good. And I bet you today they are not just doing that. They're able to go ahead and spread their story. And let me tell you, the way that they are actually able to actualize their value is more than just by cutting hair.
And the thing is, like, you just can't wake up and I'm going to cut hair, right? It's a craft, right? You got to practice over and over again, right?
It's an art, it really is.
Oh yeah, like I've got quite a few fucking haircuts in my day, I'm sure everyone has. So Eddie, any other thing you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I think I definitely know if my team was listening, they'd probably be like, oh my gosh, we gotta listen to him after this. So you know what? I'm gonna probably save that for another time.
Okay.
But yeah, no, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jason.
Eddie, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.